Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga. Chapter 250. To think that he would make such a shocking oath. Ran Wushuang was becoming more and more interested in Qin Feiyang. Actually, Qin Feiyang was not as complicated as Ran Wushuang. There was only one reason for him to do so. If the emperor didn't care, he would. Qin Feiyang looked at the lion-headed eagle and laughed. Senior Beast Emperor, the person has been rescued. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. What promise? Ran Wushuang was puzzled. Lion-headed eagle said, "This human brat asked me to help destroy Yan County. What? Ran Wushuang stared at him and said angrily, Feiyang, are you crazy? Do you know that you are courting death by doing this? Qin Feiyang's face was full of ridicule and said, Sis, you misunderstood. I was just saying that to test the Beast Emperor's sincerity, I didn't expect him to really take it seriously. Ran Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief. Sis? Lion-headed eagle was a little stunned. Ran Wushuang laughed. I have already recognized him as my little brother. You have to help him more in the future. Little brother? Lion-headed eagle looked at Qin Feiyang strangely, and only after a long time did he say a few words, and said disdainfully, You really know how to climb up the social ladder. Qin Feiyang was a little helpless. It was clearly Ran Wushuang who took the initiative to recognize him as his little brother. But now he said that he was climbing up the social ladder? Lion-headed eagle said again, Since you are master's little brother, then from now on, you can call me brother. Brother? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. Eagle, don't mess around. Ran Wushuang stared at lion-headed eagle and laughed. Feiyang, from now on, you can call him eagle like me. With a new lover, you've forgotten your old one. Lion-headed eagle immediately sighed. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expect this savage fellow to have such a cute side. Ran Wushuang asked, Feiyang, who are you going to deal with? Qin Feiyang's face turned solemn as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He nodded and said, I want to eradicate the Blood Slaughter Palace. Blood Slaughter Palace? Ran Wushuang frowned and asked doubtfully, Why haven't I heard of this force before? The Blood Slaughter Palace only appeared in the last 1 or 2 years. The Palace Lord of the Blood Slaughter Palace is called Xueqi. He has committed a heinous crime by refining the blood demon pill. He even killed my friend. Qin Feiyang said gloomily. Blood demon pill. Ran Wushuang's beautiful eyes also flickered with strands of shocking killing intent. Lion-head eagle asked, Is he strong? 8-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang said. Lion-head eagle said, This is a difficult person to deal with. Why don't we just call the people from the state capital over? If you can call the people from the state capital, I have already told Wang Hong the last time he came. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, To be honest, a few big shots in the county of Yan deliberately hid this from the state capital. Wang Hong? Ran Wushuang was stunned and asked, Is he wearing an eye mask? How do you know? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Ran Wushuang smiled and said, I have seen him before. He is one of the commanders in the state capital. He is very strong and I have received many favors from him in the past. Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Ran Wushuang pondered for a moment and said with a smile, We need to think about how to get rid of Xueqi. Let's go to the county of Yan first. You can tell me the details on the way. Lion-head eagle said, Master, let's go to the Swallow Pan Mountain Range first. I want to gather the troops and cheer for this kid. Qin Feiyang was delighted. Lion-head eagle opened the portal. Blood eagle saw it and hurriedly swooped down and asked, Wait, what about me? Ran Wushuang smiled and said, You are free. You can decide where to go next. Blood eagle hesitated and said, Master, I want to follow you. Please take me in. Although the land of ruins was cruel, the outside world was not that bad. If it wanted to live longer, it needed a strong backer. No. Lion-head eagle refused. What a joke. If Blood Eagle followed him, its status would be affected. Ran Wushuang smiled and said, Sure. Thank you, Master. Blood Eagle was overjoyed and said respectfully, Master, you can't forget your old love when you have a new one. Back then, I was the one who went through fire and water with you. Lion-head eagle was anxious. It seriously felt that its status was being threatened. Qin Feiyang teased Eagle, I didn't expect you to be jealous. But Blood Eagle's character is not bad. It won't be a threat to you. Get lost. In any case, we are old friends. It's fine if you don't help me, but you are actually helping him. What do you mean? Lion-head Eagle said angrily. Old friends? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. If it wasn't for this guy forcing him, he wouldn't have entered the land of ruins. In terms of friendship, there was no friendship. He had a stomach full of resentment. Why not? Okay, stop it. Ran Wushuang glared at the lion-headed eagle. He took out a Chenkuan bag from his bosom and took out a bright medicinal pill. He handed it to the Blood Eagle and said, "This is the transformation pill. Take it." Blood Eagle was puzzled. What is a transformation pill? It can change its size freely. You don't even know this. What a country bumpkin. Lion-head Eagle despised. Blood Eagle's eyes lit up. It hurriedly grabbed it and swallowed it. Qin Feiyong asked, "Sister, do you have any more transformation pills?" Ran Wushuang said, "No, transformation pills are very precious. I only bought 2 back then." Qin Feiyong was a little disappointed. Originally, he wanted to ask for one for Wolf King. Now it seemed that he could only wait for him to personally refine it in the future. Without further ado, the 2 men and 2 eagles entered the teleportation gate one after another and descended in the sky above the central area of the Swallow Pan mountain range. Lion-head Eagle let out a shrill cry, and 15 War Emperor realm beasts immediately rushed over from all directions. Did you see that? They are all this Emperor's underlings. In the future, you better behave yourselves. Otherwise, this Emperor will let them tear you apart. Lion-head Eagle looked at Blood Eagle proudly. Blood Eagle nodded his head repeatedly, his eyes filled with admiration. Ren Wushuang looked at Qin Feiyong helplessly. Qin Feiyong shrugged his shoulders. Lion-head Eagle, this fellow, would fall out with him if he said so. He did not dare to get involved. Next, Qin Feiyong and Ren Wushuang stood on the back of the Lion-head Eagle, leading the 15 beasts as they majestically flew towards the Yan County. Wherever they passed, all beasts would bow down in worship. 20 days later, the beasts restrained their auras and entered the territory of the Yan County. Originally, with the Lion-head Eagle's strength, it would only take 3 to 4 days to arrive. However, the 15 War Emperor realm beasts could not keep up with its speed. In addition, after more than 20 years, Ren Wushuang also wanted to have a good time, so he stopped and walked along the way. Qin Feiyong was not in a hurry. After explaining Xueqi's situation to Ren Wushuang, he began to cultivate. Before entering the territory of the Yan County, his strength once again welcomed a breakthrough, stepping into the 7-star martial ancestor realm. This speed. Even Ren Wushuang was stunned. Later on, she found out that Qin Feiyong had already opened the 2nd level of the Gate of Potential, and was also a top-grade alchemist. She also liked this free brother from the bottom of her heart. Half an hour later, under the lead of Qin Feiyong, the beasts entered the deep mountains outside the Yan city, hid their auras, and hid. Ran Wushuang then brought Qin Feiyong and flew to the top of a mountain near the Yan city, looking down at the huge city. The Lion-head Eagle and the Blood Eagle turned into the size of a palm, standing on Ran Wushuang's shoulders. Ran Wushuang asked, "Feiyong, do you have any plans?" Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and said, "The first step of the plan is to find out the identity of the other War Emperor. Let's go to the Martial King Palace and ask Yan Nanshan and the others if they have any clues." Finished. He swallowed a mirage form pill and turned into a young man of about 20 years old. He sneered, "Zuaran, Jiahe, Patriarch Lin, you didn't think that I, Qin Feiyong, would come back, right?" Whiz. With a wave of his hand, Ren Wushuang swept up Qin Feiyong and landed in the forest below in the blink of an eye. Next, the 2 of them walked out of the forest and walked side by side towards the city gate. Wow! So beautiful! Who is she? How come I've never seen her before? I really want to become the 2 eagles on her shoulders and kiss her. Who is the man next to her? He's actually so close to her? Along the way, Ren Wushuang was the focus of attention, attracting the gaze of every man. And Qin Feiyong naturally became the public enemy in the eyes of all the men. They arrived at the city gate. The 4 guards guarding the city gate also had love-struck looks on their faces. When Qin Feiyong and Zuan entered the city, they finally remembered that they had forgotten to interrogate the 2 of them. Ren Wushuang was too beautiful. Men were fascinated by her. Women were also envious and jealous. "Sis, You should also change your appearance. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. Originally, he wanted to go to the Flying Phoenix house and ask about Xueqi's recent situation. But now, it seemed that if he really entered the Flying Phoenix house with such a femme fatale, he would probably be killed by the gazes of those men. Ren Wuxiang couldn't help but smile. Let's go directly to the Martial Imperial Hall, Qin Feiyong said. Under his guidance, Ren Wuxiang brought him to the entrance of the Martial Imperial Hall in less than a moment. Elder Chu walked out of the reception hall with a hint of surprise in his eyes. But more than that, he was puzzled. He glanced at the two of them and asked, "May I know why the two of you have come to the Martial Imperial Hall?" Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Elder, long time no see. You know me?" Elder Chu looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong walked in front of Elder Chu and whispered a name in his ear. "Is it really you, Qin?" Elder Chu's body trembled as he said excitedly, "Shh." Seeing that Elder Chu was about to call out his name, Qin Feiyong hurriedly made a shushing gesture. Elder Chu glanced at the street outside and whispered, "How can we verify your identity?" Back then, Elder Chu, Fatso, and Lu Hong put on a show together to deceive the black-clothed man from the Blood Slaughter Palace. Qin Feiyong said. It was because of this that he told Elder Chu his true identity without hesitation. "It's really you." Elder Chu was overjoyed. He whispered, "Ever since one sneaked into Yen City, there have been people loitering outside our gate. We suspect that he's from the Blood Slaughter Palace, so I have to verify it." "It's only right." Qin Feiyong smiled. He turned his head slightly and glanced at the street. Sure enough, there were a few suspicious people looking in their direction. "The hallmaster has instructed us not to alert them. Hurry up and go to the enforcement hall." "By the way, who's this?" Elder Chu looked at Ren Wuxiang in confusion. "She's my elder sister," Qin Feiyong said. "Why didn't I know that you have an elder sister? Moreover, you two don't look alike." Elder Chu was puzzled. Of course they didn't look alike. However, he wasn't in the mood to explain. "We'll talk about it later." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. He led Ren Wuxiang into the Martial Imperial Hall and walked quickly to the enforcement hall. After returning to the Martial Imperial Hall, he felt especially at ease. He felt a sense of belonging that he hadn't felt in a long time. Chapter 251. Disciplinary Hall. Elder Ji sat in the resting room with a frown. Knock knock. Someone knocked on the door. Elder Ji said angrily, "Didn't I say not to disturb me if there's nothing important?" Creak. The door opened. Qin Feiyong brought Ren Wuxiang into the resting room. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Elder, what's bothering you that you have such a bad temper?" Elder Ji glanced at the two of them and shouted, "Who are you? How dare you barge into this elder's resting room?" "Elder, please calm down." Qin Feiyong took out a facial restoration pill and threw it into his mouth. His appearance immediately changed. Elder Ji suddenly stood up and looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, "Elder, you won't blame me, right?" "Brat." Elder Ji came up and slapped Qin Feiyong's head. She said angrily, "Just come back. Why are you being so mysterious? You're asking for a beating, aren't you?" Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. He really couldn't figure it out. How was it mysterious? It was clearly Elder Ji who was too angry. Moreover, if she didn't change her appearance, she would have already caused an uproar in the city. Seeing Qin Feiyong's appearance, Elder Ji couldn't help but shake her head and laugh. She rubbed his head with tears in her eyes. "The Swallow Pan mountain range is extremely dangerous. You must have suffered a lot along the way." Her voice was also a little hoarse. Qin Feiyong was very touched. He smiled and said, "It's all thanks to my sister's help that I could walk out of the Swallow Pan mountain range alive." "Your sister?" The beautiful woman was slightly stunned. Only now did she remember that there was an unbelievably beautiful woman beside her. She turned and looked at Ren Wuxiang suspiciously. "Elder, she's called Ren Wuxiang. She's the master of the Swallow Pan Mountain Range's Beast Emperor. The lion-headed eagle on her shoulder is the Swallow Pan Mountain Range's Beast Emperor. Sister, Old Eagle, this is Elder Ji that I often mention to you." Qin Feiyong introduced them to each other with a smile. Ren Wuxiang bowed and said, "Greetings, Elder Ji." Thank you for taking care of Fei Yong these past 2 years. It seemed that she had completely integrated into the role of Qin Fei Yong's older sister. This also proved that she sincerely regarded Qin Fei Yong as her younger brother. Miss Wushuang, you're too polite. Fei Yong is a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. It's our duty to take care of him. Elder Ji smiled and pulled Qin Fei Yong to the side. He said in a deep voice, "Brat, tell me honestly, where did you kidnap this sister of yours from?" Abduct. Qin Fei Yong was dumbfounded. She really wouldn't stop until she was shocked to death. Ran Wushuang was not a 3-year-old girl. How could he kidnap her? If they had to talk about abduction, it should be Ran Wushuang who abducted him, okay? Elder, don't worry. She can be trusted. Qin Fei Yong laughed. Actually, he also knew that Elder Ji was worried about Ran Wushuang's background. Elder Ji looked at him suspiciously, turned around and walked to the side of the tea table. He looked at Ran Wushuang and smiled. "Wushuang, please sit." Ran Wushuang nodded and sat at the side of the tea table. As Elder Ji brewed tea, he smiled and said, "Did Fei Yong cause you any trouble?" "I'm the one who should be troubling him," Ran Wushuang said with a smile. Elder Ji said, "I wonder where you came from? I've been to the Swallow Pan mountain range a few times, but why haven't I seen you before?" Ran Wushuang smiled without batting an eyelid. "I've been cultivating in the cave all year round. It's normal that the elder hasn't seen me before." This was a battle between 2 women. Qin Fei Yong couldn't interrupt, nor did he dare to. After all, these were 2 true war emperors throughout the entire conversation. Whether it was Elder Ji or Ran Wushuang, they both appeared to be very friendly. However, with regards to the ruins, Ran Wushuang did not mention a single word. "Haha, stinking brat, seeing you come back, why do I have the urge to beat you up?" After a while, a loud laugh came from outside the door. Yan Nanshan and Elder Wan walked into the resting room one after another, their faces full of smiles. "Greetings, Hall Master." "Greetings, Elder Wan." Qin Fei Yong hurriedly went up to pay his respects. Yan Nanshan sized up Qin Fei Yong, patted him on the shoulder, and nodded. "It's good that you're back." His words were short, but they touched Qin Fei Yong's heartstrings. Elder Wan asked, "Fei Yong, is this your sister?" Qin Fei Yong nodded and introduced the 2 of them. "Beast Emperor." The 2 of them looked at the lion-headed eagle in shock. They didn't expect this bastard to be related to the Swallow Pan Mountain Range's Beast Emperor. If one survives a great disaster, there will be good fortune in the future. This sentence was indeed true. After chatting for a while, everyone got to the point. Qin Fei Yong said, "Hallmaster, elders, has there been any movement from Xuan recently?" Yan Nanshan shook his head. "No, ever since he used Jiang Zhengyi's identity to sneak into the treasure pavilion, he hasn't appeared in front of anyone." "What about Luo Qianxue?" Qin Fei Yong asked. "Not long after the incident, she came to Yen City. She's temporarily staying at the Flying Phoenix Pavilion. With Steward Li taking care of her, her safety shouldn't be a problem." "We didn't tell her that Jiang Zhengyi was impersonated by Xuan," Yan Nanshan said. "Indeed, we can't tell her. Otherwise, she will break down." Qin Fei Yong sighed deeply and asked, "Do you have any clues about the other war emperor?" "No." Yan Nanshan shook his head. Qin Fei Yong said in a deep voice, "We can't wait any longer. We have to take the initiative to attack. Otherwise, when Xuan breaks through to the 9-star war emperor, it will be even more difficult to deal with him." "Do you have any plans?" Yan Nanshan looked at him expectantly. Although he was much stronger than Qin Fei Yong in terms of strength, he was still inferior to him in terms of intelligence. Qin Fei Yong said, "On the way back, I have been thinking about it. I have indeed come up with a plan, but I need your cooperation." "Say it." Yan Nanshan said, "Beat the grass and scare the snake. Let them panic. Once they panic, they will naturally reveal their flaws." Qin Fei Yong's eyes flashed with a cold light. This time, he wanted the Blood Slaughter Palace to be completely annihilated. He wanted Xuan to never be able to rise again. Beat the grass and scare the snake? Yan Nanshan and the others looked at each other, their eyes full of doubts. Qin Fei Yong said, "The first step is to sneak into Xuan's cultivation room." "No." As soon as the words came out, it was immediately opposed by several people. Xuan was a great demon. Sneaking into his cultivation room was akin to courting death. Qin Feiyang smiled. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be courting death. But I am different. I have an ancient castle. If I hide in the castle, he won't be able to find me. Ran Wushuang said, if you insist on going, Old Eagle and I will accompany you. That would be for the best. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. With the two of them, especially Old Eagle, the aura he released was even stronger than Yan Nanshan. Even if Xuan discovered them, they would still be able to protect themselves. The beautiful woman asked, what about the second step? Let's wait for the first step to be completed. Qin Feiyang took out an image crystal and established a contract with Yan Nanshan. He then looked at Ran Wushuang and smiled. Sister, do you have an image crystal? What do you think? Ran Wushuang asked. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. After saying that, he realized that he had asked a very stupid question. Ran Wushuang was from the state capital. He could even afford a transformation pill, let alone an image crystal. After Ran Wushuang took out an image crystal and established a contract, Qin Feiyang stood up and looked at Yan Nanshan and the other two. Wait for my news. Be careful. Yan Nanshan warned. Qin Feiyang nodded and took out an illusion pill. He turned into a young man and sent Ran Wushuang into the ancient castle. This femme fatale must not be by his side. Then, Qin Feiyang left the martial imperial hall. He walked and stopped until noon. He stopped in front of the Flying Phoenix Pavilion. But he hesitated. In the end, he did not go in to find Luo Chenxue. Now was a critical period. He could not cause any trouble. After a while, he arrived at the treasure pavilion. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw two old acquaintances. It was Lin Hao and Lin Hua. The two of them were in front of a counter and seemed to be choosing something. The staff behind the counter was introducing it with a flattering face. You're living a carefree life, but soon it will be your end. Qin Feiyang secretly sneered. At this time, a staff member came up and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Guest, what can I do for you? Qin Feiyang said, take me to the auction house, I want a VIP room. The staff member apologized. I'm really sorry, the VIP rooms are full today. Qin Feiyang was surprised. The staff member explained, this afternoon, we will auction the top-grade red fireglass pill, so the patriarchs of the major families have already reserved a seat. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized. Why are you explaining so much to him? One look and I can tell that he is a country bumpkin who has never seen the world. Two piercing words were uttered all of a sudden. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Lin Hao and Lin Hua. It was them who spoke. The two of them were arrogant and looked at Qin Feiyang disdainfully. Qin Feiyang said, who do you think you are? Treasure Pavilion is opened by your family? And the top-grade red fireglass pill is refined by your family? Yeah. How dare you talk to us like this? Lin Hao and Lin Hua screamed and walked toward Qin Feiyang unkindly. The crowd around couldn't help but fold their hands and watch the show. The staff member also hurriedly retreated to the side. The distance between Qin Feiyang and Lin Hao was only 5 or 6 meters. The two of them came in front of Qin Feiyang in a few steps. Lin Hao sneered. Do you know who we are? I don't know who you are. I only know that the top-grade red fireglass pill is refined by Qin Feiyang. I also heard that a man named Lin Hua was kicked in the balls by Qin Feiyang. Is it you? Qin Feiyang stared at Lin Hua with a playful look. Lin Hua's face immediately twisted. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said, tell me your name, I promise to kill your whole family. You. Qin Feiyang looked disdainful. Arrogant bastard. I'll kill you first. Lin Hua was furious and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He slapped toward Qin Feiyang. Two-star martial ancestor? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Lin Hua had already broken through to two-star martial ancestor at Yi and the first prince's wedding. Now that so much time had passed, he was still a two-star martial ancestor? His innate talent was really frighteningly bad. In fact, Lin Hua's talent was already very good. Compared to his peers in Yen City, he could definitely be called the best. But because Qin Feiyang's speed was too fast, Lin Hua was like a fool compared to him. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and waved gently. With a bang, he slapped Lin Hua's arm away. He even staggered and was almost sent flying. Chapter 252. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but shrink their pupils. With a wave of his hand, he slapped Lin Hua away. This young man's strength is too strong? Lin Hua felt it the most. Because his arm was already numb. He felt that the other party didn't even use 1/10 of his strength. If the other party added a little more strength just now, his arm would definitely be crippled. This person definitely has the strength to sweep away the younger generation of Yen City. Lin Hua was also a little stunned. When did Yen City have such a character? Such a powerful strength shouldn't be unknown. He said in a deep voice, "Who the hell are you?" Qin Feiyong said lightly, "I'm just a passerby, don't ask for a snub again." Haha. Lin Hua laughed. "Do you know? Arrogant people are destined to not live long. Since you know that the supreme-grade crimson glass pill was refined by Qin Feiyong, then you should know his character. He's more arrogant than you, but the result? He died earlier than anyone else. This is the disaster caused by arrogance." Lin Hao's eyes were full of ridicule. "Is that so?" The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted, and there was a meaningful smile on his face. "See if you won't shed tears until you enter the coffin. This young master might as well tell you the truth. Today, if you don't kneel down and admit your mistake, don't think about walking out of the treasure pavilion's door." Lin Hao crossed his arms and stared at Qin Feiyong with a smile. "Kneel down and admit my mistake?" Qin Feiyong's eyes narrowed slightly. Without saying a word, he directly kicked. Lin Hao flew into a rage and hurriedly retreated. But with Qin Feiyong's current strength, how could he avoid it? Crack! A kick hit the crotch. The egg was broken on the spot. Blood spurted out wildly. Ah! Lin Hao was paralyzed on the ground, both hands covering his crotch, his face twisted in pain, screaming again and again. The people around, including those staff, all of their faces changed drastically. He actually kicked Lin Hao's family jewels? One must know that Lin Hao is now Lin Han's only son. This person's action is undoubtedly ending the Lin family's bloodline. This matter is big. "Brother Hao." Lin Hua's face also changed. He squatted on the ground and looked at Lin Hao anxiously. "Quick! Get someone to take him down. I want to put him to death by 1,000 cuts. I want him to beg for death." Lin Hao roared hysterically. "Men, take down this madman!" Lin Hua shouted. A group of black-clothed men immediately rushed out from one of the corridors of the precious treasure pavilion. All of them looked ferocious. Qin Feiyong frowned. These people were not from the Lin family. They were the guards of Zhanbao Pavilion. But he actually listened to Lin Hua's orders? "Stop. It was because of this." A slightly hoarse and cold voice rang out. Manager Li strode out from the corridor. Lin Hua roared, "Manager Li, this person is committing crimes in the treasure pavilion. Quickly take him down. Not only did you order the guards of my precious treasure pavilion, you even dare to order me? Where did you borrow your courage from?" Manager Li's face was gloomy as he stared coldly at Lin Hua. Lin Hua shrunk his neck. "Scram right now!" Manager Li shouted. But Lin Hua hurriedly pointed at Qin Feiyong. "I will take care of it. You don't have to worry about it," Manager Li expressionlessly said, pointing at Qin Feiyong, and shouted to the guards, "Take him down for me, I want to interrogate him personally." At the same time, he secretly gave Qin Feiyong a look. Qin Feiyong understood. When the guards surrounded him, he did not resist. "This matter is not over yet." Lin Hua resentfully looked at Qin Feiyong, then carried Lin Hao and quickly ran out of the precious treasure pavilion. "Clean up the blood on the floor." Manager Li ordered a few staff members, then looked at the two guards who were holding Qin Feiyong, and shouted, "Bring him and follow me." Finished. Manager Li turned around and walked towards the second floor. "Go quickly." The two guards coldly shouted, while pushing Qin Feiyong, and patting Qin Feiyong's head hard. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice, "You better restrain yourselves. You dare to threaten us." One of the guards was furious, and fiercely kicked Qin Feiyong's back, almost knocking Qin Feiyong to the ground. "You're dead." Qin Feiyong secretly muttered. A shocking murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Second floor. In a remote room. There was nothing inside, and it was extremely dirty and messy. Manager Li walked in, and without turning his head, said, "I want to interrogate him alone. You guys go out first." "Yes." The two guards respectfully responded, released Qin Feiyong, and left the room. But they did not leave, nor did they close the door, standing side by side outside the door. It gave people the feeling that they were monitoring Manager Li. Manager Li shouted, "Close the door for me." The two guards looked at each other, somewhat hesitant. "Do you even dare to disobey this old man's words?" Manager Li turned to look at the two, his old face full of anger. "We don't dare." The two guards were shocked, and hurriedly closed the door. Phew! Manager Li let out a long breath. Qin Feiyong moved his shoulders, and was about to speak. "Shoo!" Manager Li hurriedly made a shushing gesture, and whispered, "I know it's you, brat, but now is not the time to talk. Cooperate with me to put on a show." "Put on a show?" Qin Feiyong was a little puzzled, but did not ask more. "Bastard! Who are you? You dare to make trouble in the treasure pavilion. Do you want to die? See if I don't beat you to death." Manager Li cursed angrily. Qin Feiyong also screamed very cooperatively, and at the same time cut his wrist, smearing the blood all over his body. The two guards outside heard the commotion inside, and there was a trace of a smile on their faces. A moment later, Qin Feiyong lay weakly on the ground, covered in blood. Manager Li opened the door, looked at the two guards outside, and said to the one on the left, "Come in and help Meme." "Yes." The guard walked into the room, and when he saw Qin Feiyong's miserable appearance, he could not help but shiver. Manager Li closed the door again, and unexpectedly killed the guard directly. Then, he kicked Qin Feiyong and whispered, "Stop pretending, get up, change into his appearance and change clothes." Qin Feiyong turned over and got up. Without asking, he quickly took off his clothes. After disguising himself, Manager Li looked up and down at Qin Feiyong for a moment, and nodded in satisfaction. Then, Manager Li stomped on the guard's face. Crack! The guard's brain burst, leaving only a headless corpse. Damn, when did this old man become so cruel? Qin Feiyong was secretly surprised. Manager Li whispered, "This person's figure is similar to yours now. I believe no one will doubt it." Qin Feiyong nodded. This god was now wearing his clothes and had no head. If he carried him out, others would only think that he had been killed by Steward Li. Manager Li opened the door and shouted, "Take the body out and bury it." Dead. The guard standing at the door was stunned, and hurriedly turned and ran into the room. When he saw the corpse lying on the ground, his face could not help but turn pale. Right. Manager Li seemed to suddenly remember something, and pointed to Qin Feiyong. "Come with me, I have something to ask you." "Yes." Qin Feiyong respectfully responded, and followed in large strides. After the two left, the guard shook his head and muttered, "What a miserable death. I didn't expect Manager Li to have such a terrifying side." He did not realize that the corpse in front of him was actually his companion. In the lounge, Manager Li closed the door, and let out a long sigh. Qin Feiyong frowned. "Senior, what's going on?" Manager Li said angrily, "It's all because of Xuan. Ever since he pretended to be the pavilion master and entered the treasure pavilion, he has been sending people to monitor me day and night." Qin Feiyong asked, "Those guards are monitoring you?" "Yes." Manager Li nodded and sneered. "Xuan thought that I didn't notice, but in fact, I have long noticed. You little brat. You really make people worry. You crippled Lin Hao as soon as you entered the treasure pavilion. Aren't you causing trouble for me?" Manager Li glared at Qin Feiyong angrily. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips. Who asked him to be so arrogant? That kind of small fry can be dealt with at any time. Don't you know how to endure it? If I didn't appear in time, I'd like to see how you deal with it. Manager Li was furious. Hee hee. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly and asked, "How did you know that I'm here?" "It was Yan Nanshan who informed me. He even showed me your disguise. Otherwise, who would know that you're Qin Feiyong?" Manager Li rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyong asked, "Did the temple master tell you my plan?" Manager Li nodded and frowned. "Xuan is in seclusion in the secret chamber under the treasure pavilion, but it's difficult to sneak in. Also, are you confident that you can find out the identity of the other combat emperor?" "It's not about whether I'm confident, but I must succeed." Qin Feiyong clenched his fists and said firmly, "All right, let me think about how to sneak in." Manager Li lowered his head and pondered. Qin Feiyong asked suspiciously, "By the way, why would the guards of the treasure pavilion listen to Lin Hua's orders?" It's because of Zhua, and Manager Li said. Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Lin Hua and the others were now disciples of the Blood Slaughter Palace. As the palace master, Xuan would naturally take special care of them. Qin Feiyang thought for a while. Then, a glint flashed across his eyes as he asked, "Did anyone come to look for Xuan during this period? If someone came to look for Xuan, it must be someone from the Blood Slaughter Palace. If a combat emperor came to look for Xuan, it must be someone who sought refuge with the Blood Slaughter Palace." No, even Jia He and Ancestor Lin didn't come. Manager Li shook his head. Qin Feiyang frowned, but it made sense. Xuan was such a cunning person. How could he send his men to the treasure pavilion to look for him? If there was any order, it must be through the image crystal. What about Lin Chen? Qin Feiyang asked. I haven't seen him. Manager Li scratched his head and said, "Now that you mention it, I also feel strange. As Xuan's disciple, Lin Chen should be with him." Have you ever been to that secret room? Qin Feiyang asked. Manager Li shook his head and said, "Never. The last time I wanted to go in, he stopped me at the door." Qin Feiyang sneered. In my opinion, Lin Chen might have already disguised himself and sneaked into that secret room. Think about it quickly. Manager Li urged. Chapter 253. Xuan was treacherous and cunning. To deal with him, he had to kill him in one blow. So, Qin Feiyang did not dare to make a decision now. After pondering for a moment, he finally had an idea and asked, "Do you know what Xuan's hobbies are?" Steward Li said, "I don't know him at all. God knows what his hobbies are." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "You don't know him, but you should know Zhang Zhengyi, right?" "Why are you talking about the pavilion master?" Steward Li was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't forget that Xuan is now Zhang Zhengyi. Zhang Zhengyi's hobbies are his hobbies." Steward Li thought for a moment and said with a smile, "The pavilion master likes to drink." Qin Feiyang said, "That's easy. Prepare a pot of good wine and send it to him." "Will Xuan accept it?" Steward Li frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "Of course, he must like what Zhang Zhengyi likes. Otherwise, his identity will be exposed." Steward Li suddenly understood and gave Qin Feiyang a thumbs up. "I have a pot of wine here." He waved his hand and a sealed wine pot appeared on the ground out of thin air. When Qin Feiyang opened the wine lid, an intoxicating wine fragrance immediately assailed his nostrils. Then, he jumped on top of the wine pot and entered the castle with a thought. The castle turned into dust and fell on the wine pot. "What's going on?" Steward Li was a little stunned. The next moment, his image crystal was reacting. He took it out, and Qin Feiyang's illusory image quickly appeared. "What are you doing?" Steward Li looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "Shake the wine pot and let me see if the castle falls in." Steward Li held the wine pot and shook it gently. Qin Feiyang immediately heard the sound of water. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "No problem. The castle is now in the wine pot. Close the lid and send it to Xuan. So this is how you plan to sneak in. Aren't you afraid that Xuan will really drink you into his stomach?" Steward Li teased. "It's even better if he drinks it. I'll make him explode." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. "You win." Manager Li waved his hand and turned off the image crystal. Then, he carried the wine jar and walked towards the underground secret room. The underground secret room was the forbidden area of the treasure pavilion. Usually, only Manager Li and Zhang Zhengyi were allowed to enter, because the treasure pavilion's treasury was inside. A moment later, Steward Li came to the entrance. The entrance was a stone door that was tightly shut. Manager Li pressed a button on the wall beside him, and the stone door slowly opened. There were 2 War King guarding it. When they saw Manager Li, they immediately bowed. Manager Li smiled and said, "I'm going to deliver a jar of wine to the pavilion master. You guys keep a close watch and don't let anyone sneak in." "All right." The 2 of them nodded. Steward Li carried the wine jar and walked through the stone door. In front of him was a 1-meter-wide passage. On both sides of the passage, there was a luminous stone hanging at intervals, emitting a hazy luster. A dozen breaths later, Manager Li came to the end of the passage. There were 2 stone doors at the end. The stone door at the front was larger, about 3 to 4 meters wide. This was the entrance to the treasury. The stone door at the side was only 1 meter wide. It was the secret room where Xuan was. Phew! Manager Li took a deep breath and knocked on the stone door. Who is it? Zhang Zhengyi's voice came from inside. Pavilion Master, it's me. Manager Li smiled. A moment later, the stone door opened, and a familiar figure stood in front of Manager Li, blocking his view. He could only see the secret room behind the stone door. It was brightly lit, as if it was daytime. This person was Zhang Zhengyi. However, he was an imposter. Xuan smiled and asked, "What's the matter?" Manager Li smiled and said, "Pavilion Master, I saw that you've been in seclusion, so I wanted to send you a jar of wine to relieve your tiredness." Xuan smiled and said, "Thank you, but I'm not in the mood to drink now." Not in the mood? Manager Li was stunned and said with a worried face, "You don't even want to drink your favorite wine. Did something happen?" "My favorite." Xuan's heart trembled. He shook his head and sighed. "It's all because of Qing Zhu. Although she and Qin Feiyang hooked up with each other, she's still my daughter. I feel terrible killing her with my own hands." Sigh. Manager Li sighed deeply and comforted. "Pavilion Master, the dead can't be brought back to life. Don't blame yourself too much." "Okay." Xuan nodded and smiled. "Speaking of which, I really want to drink a little. Give me the jar of wine." "You can drink a little, but don't drown your sorrows with wine." Manager Li handed the jar of wine over and said with concern, "I know." Xuan nodded and hugged the jar of wine. He smiled and said, "Thank you for taking care of the treasure pavilion during this period." Manager Li waved his hand and said, "This is what I should do. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to work." "Go." Xuan waved his hand and said with a smile. Manager Li turned and strode away. His old eyes flashed with a trace of shocking cold light. Xuan sneered and went into the secret chamber with the jar of wine. A young man in purple walked out from a corner. Who else could it be but Lin Chen? This Manager Li is really troublesome. "Master, let's find a chance to get rid of him." Lin Chen walked over and closed the stone door. He looked at the jar of wine in Xuan's hand with a fierce light in his eyes. "Don't worry, I'll kill him sooner or later." Xuan smiled coldly and asked, "Does Zhang Zhengyi really like to drink?" Lin Chen nodded and said, "I heard that he really likes good wine." Xuan put the jar of wine on the ground and said, "Open it and see if there's anything hidden in it." "Okay." Lin Chen grabbed the lid and lifted it. The fragrance of the wine immediately made his eyes light up. Xuan was not moved at all. "Good wine." Lin Chen took a sniff and carefully checked it. He looked up at Xuan and said with a smile, "Master, there's nothing unusual. Can you give this jar of wine to me?" Xuan shouted, "Don't you know that drinking will ruin things?" After he finished speaking, he directly kicked the jar of wine and said, "If you want to drink, lick it clean." "I don't want to." Lin Chen hurriedly shook his head. His face was a little pale. "You're still addicted to wine and women. You're really hopeless. If you continue like this, don't blame me for being ruthless and refining you into a blood spirit pill." Xuan glanced at him coldly and walked to the center of the secret chamber. He sat on a futon and took out a blood spirit pill and began to refine it. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I quite admire Xuan for this. Indeed, wine should be avoided as much as possible. He's very cautious. There's a reason why he's still alive today." Ran Wushuang said, "So what if he's cautious? He still can't beat the boss. He'll never expect that we're lurking in his lair." Fatso's face was full of disdain. "I just want to avenge Ling Yunfei and the others." Wolf King's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Ran Wushuang glanced at them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Feiyang, we've already sneaked in. Can we start the second step of the plan?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and took out the image crystal. After a while, Yan Nanshan and the other two's shadows condensed. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Temple Master, elders, we've successfully sneaked into the secret chamber where Xuan is." "Good." The three were overjoyed. Qin Feiyang said, "Next, I'll have to trouble you to personally go and interrogate the first prince, Lin Hao, Lin Hua, Xueyang, Wang Xia, Xiefang and the others." "Interrogate what?" Yan Nanshan was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said. Interrogate them about what happened in the Swallow Pan Mountain range back then. Yan Nanshan frowned and said, is that useful? They'll definitely insist that it was you who wanted to take those herbs. Interrogating them won't yield any results, and they're not my target. I want to make Jia He and the others feel guilty. If you investigate this matter with a suspicious attitude again, they'll definitely think that you might have noticed something. At that time, they'll send a message or come to discuss with Xueqi in person. In this way, I can find out who the other combat emperor is from their conversation. Qin Feiyang sneered. I see. Brat, you're really something. Yan Nanshan laughed and turned off the image crystal. He looked at the beautiful woman and the elder and said, this plan is perfect. We must grasp it well. The two nodded. Elder Wan scolded jokingly. This brat is really evil. The beautiful woman said, actually, the most powerful one is not Qin Feiyang, but the ancient castle in his hands. Without that ancient castle, this plan can't be carried out at all. Yes, no one can sneak up to Xueqi without anyone noticing. Let's not care about this. Old Wan, you go to the Danwang Hall. Elder Ji, you go to the Lin family. I'll go to the palace personally. Let's go. The three of them got up and disappeared at lightning speed. The royal family. Yan Nanshan descended on the throne room like a ray of light. Swoosh. King Yen sensed his arrival immediately and flew out from one of the palaces. He smiled and said, Brother Yen, what brings you to my palace today? Yan Nanshan said, King Yen, I'm not here to be your guest today. I'm here to look for the first prince to investigate the Swallow Pan Mountain range. King Yen frowned and asked doubtfully, hasn't the truth been revealed? Yan Nanshan said, to be honest, I found a few suspicious clues. You'll know when you see the first prince. All right. King Yen nodded and said loudly, Chief Commander, bring the first prince here immediately. Whoosh. In less than 10 breaths. A rough-looking man in golden armor rushed up to the sky with the first prince. This man was the chief commander of the palace. Greetings, Palace Master. The two of them bowed to Yan Nanshan. Yan Nanshan nodded and looked at the first prince. I'd like to ask if Jiang Zhengyi killed Qin Feiyang and the others because they wanted to take the herbs for themselves? The first prince smiled and said, yes, Palace Master. Then why did I find a large area of destruction when I went to investigate the Swallow Pan Mountain range? With Jiang Zhengyi's strength, shouldn't it be easy for him to kill Qin Feiyang and the others? What's going on? Yan Nanshan asked. What? The first prince's pupils constricted and he could not help but panic. King Yen asked doubtfully, Brother Yen, when did you go to the Swallow Pan Mountain range? Why didn't I know? A few days ago. To be honest, King Yen, I didn't believe that Qin Feiyang would do such a thing. Therefore, I secretly went to the Swallow Pan Mountain range and found many suspicious points. Based on the situation at the scene, it was obvious that there was a tragic battle. Yan Nanshan said calmly without blushing. My son, what's going on? King Yen frowned. The first prince shook his head. Father, I don't know either. It might be caused by the ferocious beasts of the Swallow Pan Mountain range. The chief commander smiled. The ferocious beasts of the Swallow Pan Mountain range are extremely strong. It's not impossible for them to kill each other. Palace Master Yen, you're thinking too much. Yan Nanshan glanced at him and a glint flashed in his eyes. I believe in my instincts. There must be something wrong here. I'll continue investigating until the truth is out. King Yen, sorry to disturb you. I'll leave first. Yan Nanshan said firmly before turning and leaving quickly. Is Yan Nanshan crazy? The chief commander frowned. You can't blame him. He placed too much hope on Qin Feiyang. Now that something like this has happened, it's normal for him to find it hard to accept. My son, if he comes to ask you again, try your best to cooperate with him. You don't have to worry. A straight foot is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Without conclusive evidence, he won't dare to do anything to you. King Yen said. Yes. The first prince bowed and replied. Chapter 254. The same thing was happening in the Danwang Hall and the Lin family. Elder Wan and Elder Ji's interrogation methods were similar to Yan Nanshan's. Old ancestor Lin and Jia He were experienced and calm, so they could still sit still. However, Lin Hao and the others were obviously starting to feel uneasy. Colluding with Xueqi was a crime punishable by death. If they were exposed, they would all die. In the ancient castle, Fatso frowned. Why is there still no movement? Shh. Lu Hong made a shushing gesture. There was dead silence. Even Qin Feiyang and the others deliberately suppressed their breathing and heartbeat to the minimum. No one knew how much time had passed. Didn't I tell you not to look for me if there's nothing important? What if the King of Yen finds out? Suddenly, Xuan's voice echoed in the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang perked up and said, Lu Hong, take out the image crystal and record it. Lu Hong nodded. At the same time, in the secret chamber outside, Xuan held the image crystal in his hand. A golden shadow stood in the void in front of him. If Qin Feiyang saw this shadow, he would definitely be ecstatic. This was because this person was the Grand Commander of the royal family. The Grand Commander said respectfully, Palace Master, I don't want to disturb you, but there's something I can't decide on. What is it? Xuan frowned. Yan Nanshan just came to the palace again to interrogate the first prince. The Grand Commander gave a simple and clear account of the situation at that time. What? He even went to the Yanpan mountain range to investigate. Xuan suddenly stood up, his face extremely gloomy. What should we do now? The Grand Commander asked. Xuan pondered for a moment and said, Don't be nervous. Yan Nanshan only suspects. He can't do anything without any evidence. He added, also, keep an eye on the first prince. If there's anything strange about him, find a chance to kill him. Understood. The Grand Commander nodded and frowned. But Yan Nanshan has already said that he will investigate thoroughly. The King of Yen also asked the first prince to cooperate with Yan Nanshan. It doesn't matter. Let him investigate if he wants to. Anyway, it won't be long before I become a 9-star combat emperor. When the time comes, I will be the first to kill him. I will also get rid of the first prince as a puppet. When the King of Yen and the first prince are dead, you, as the great commander of the royal palace, will most likely inherit the throne of the county of Yen. Xuan laughed sinisterly. Thank you for your guidance, Palace Master. The Grand Commander was wild with joy. He said, Palace Master, this subordinate has already finished refining the blood demon pills you gave this subordinate last time. Can you give this subordinate some more? Xuan nodded. No problem. I'll have Lin Chen send it to you later. Thank you, Palace Master. The Grand Commander bowed and saluted. Then, the shadow quickly dissipated. Great Commander of the royal family, you finally showed up. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He took out an image crystal and quickly activated it. A short while later, the illusionary figures of Yan Nanshan and the other two appeared. Qin Feiyang went straight to the point. Palace Master, 2 elders. The other combat emperor is the great commander of the royal family. The 3 of them trembled. When I was interrogating the first prince, I saw that his expression was a little strange. In the end, it was really him. I'll immediately contact Ma Cheng and the King of Yen to discuss the elimination plan. Yan Nanshan said. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, Don't tell them first because even if you tell them the truth, they may not believe it. Instead, they may leak the news. Then what should we do? Yan Nanshan frowned. I have already recorded the conversation between Xuan and the Great Commander. When I get out, I'll summon them. This way, they will have no choice but to believe it. Qin Feiyang said. Yan Nanshan sighed. It's easy to get in, but difficult to get out. It won't be that difficult. Don't turn off the image crystal. Wait for my news. Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. Outside, Jia He and old ancestor Lin also sent a message to Xuan one after another. Xuan used the same method to appease the two, then took out a Chenkuan bag and handed it to Lin Chen. Next, he opened the stone door of the secret chamber and stood in the passage. He looked at the 2 battle kings guarding the entrance and ordered, Go to the Flying Phoenix restaurant immediately and buy some dishes for the restaurant. On the surface, he said that he wanted to buy some dishes, but in fact, he was sending them away to create an opportunity for Lin Chen. Yes. The 2 did not suspect anything. They opened the stone door and left in a hurry. Xuan turned to Lin Chen and said, Hurry up and send the blood demon pill to the great commander. Don't let anyone find out. Okay. Lin Chen nodded. He took an illusory pill and changed his appearance slightly. He quickly ran out. Good chance. In the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He looked at Yan Nanshan's shadow and said with a smile, Hallmaster, come to the treasure pavilion now. Xuan will definitely come out to meet you. Brat, you're full of tricks. All right, wait for me. I'll be there soon. Yan Nanshan waved his hand and turned off the image crystal. Not long after, Steward Li ran to the door of the secret chamber and said loudly, Pavilion Master, Yan Nanshan wants to see you. Xuan frowned and said, Tell him that I'm not in the mood to receive him right now. Steward Li said, Your relationship with Yan Nanshan has always been good. If you don't meet him, it might be inappropriate. Moreover, he also said that he won't leave until he sees you today. How troublesome. Xuan was extremely angry. He got up and opened the stone door. He looked at Steward Li and said with a smile, Thinking about it, it's true that I haven't met him for a long time. Lead the way. After the two left, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air in the secret chamber. After changing his appearance slightly, he walked out of the secret chamber and strode towards the entrance. After carefully observing for a while, he found the mechanism to open the entrance and left without looking back. It was already evening. Qin Feiyang entered a room on the second floor of the Flying Phoenix restaurant. He took out the image crystal and contacted Steward Li. Soon, Steward Li's shadow appeared. Qin Feiyang asked, Senior, how's the situation over there? Steward Li chuckled and said, Yan Nanshan is drinking tea and chatting with Xuan. Qin Feiyang said, Then let them continue drinking. I'm in the Flying Phoenix restaurant now. Which room is Aunt Xue in? Fourth floor, room number 2. There are 2 9-star fighting kings inside. They were sent by Xuan. They said that they were protecting Madam, but in fact, they were monitoring her. Steward Li said, That bastard, he really didn't give us any loopholes. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Are you going to take Madam away? Steward Li asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, If we don't take Aunt Xue away first, Xuan will definitely use her to threaten us when his identity is exposed. Steward Li smiled and said, Kid, you're really thoughtful. Qin Feiyang said, I've been taken advantage of by Xuan once. I don't want to be taken advantage of again. Steward Li asked, Do you need me to come over and help? Qin Feiyang said, No need. Just keep an eye on Xuan and wait for my news. We'll eliminate them all tonight and return peace to the county of Yen. Steward Li nodded. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal, got up and walked out of the room, and went to the 4th floor. In a room, Luo Qianxue sat alone in the tea room. Her eyes were dull and her face was dull. She looked extremely haggard. Outside the tea room, 2 burly men were guarding. They were the 2 9-star fighting kings that Steward Li mentioned. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The 2 burly men were shocked. The man on the left said, Go and see who it is. Yes. The man on the right nodded and walked to the door. He asked, Who is it? Qin Feiyang lowered his voice and said, Sir, I'm a waiter from the Flying Phoenix restaurant. The man heaved a sigh of relief and opened the door. As soon as the door opened, Qin Feiyang rushed in like lightning. Then, he looked at Luo Qianxue and saw her haggard face. He could not help but feel a dull pain in his heart. You're not a waiter from the Flying Phoenix restaurant. Who are you? The 2 9-star fighting kings were stunned and shouted in unison. Qin Feiyang was not wearing a waiter's uniform at all. Luo Qianxue also raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang. There was a trace of doubt in her empty eyes. Qin Feiyang looked away and glanced at the 2 burly men. With a thought, Ran Wushuang appeared out of thin air. The lion-headed eagle and the blood eagle were still standing on her shoulders. The 2 burly men were shocked. Why did this scene seem so familiar? That's right. It was Qin Feiyang. Only Qin Feiyang could make people appear out of thin air. But, wasn't he dead? Just as the 2 men were shocked, Qin Feiyang nodded to Ran Wushuang. Ran Wushuang attacked like lightning and killed the 2 men directly. He was so fast that they did not even have time to scream. Luo Qianxue suddenly stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. If the 2 men could think of it, so could she. But facing this unfamiliar face, she could not be sure. Qin Feiyong walked into the tea room and looked at the beautiful woman who had helped him many times. He felt extremely sad and said, "Aunt Xue, I've troubled you." Luo Qianxue's body trembled and tears burst out of her eyes. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and blamed himself. "Aunt Xue, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I didn't protect Qingzhu well." Luo Qianxue walked in front of Qin Feiyong and said, "Feiyong, I don't want you and Qingzhu to embezzle the herbs. Quickly tell Aunt Xue, what happened?" Qin Feiyong said, "This matter is hard to explain in a few words. You should hide in my ancient castle first. The truth will come to light soon." "Okay." Luo Qianxue nodded. After Qin Feiyong sent Luo Qianxue into the castle, he let out a long breath. His eyes became extremely sharp again. He said, "Sister, let's go back to the Martial Imperial Hall." Ran Wushuang waved his hand and flew out of the window with Qin Feiyong. As for the corpses of the two burly men, Qin Feiyong was not in the mood to care about them. After returning to the conference hall, the first thing Qin Feiyong did was to ask Elder Ji and Elder Wan to inform Ma Chang, Yan Wang, and Elder He to come. And they came secretly. Not long after, Yan Nanshan also came back. Elder Wan asked, "Hallmaster, did he say anything?" "What else could he say?" Yan Nanshan sneered. Whoosh. Not long after. Chapter 255. Qin Feiyong had yet to recover his true appearance. Therefore, the king of Yen did not recognize him. He looked at Yan Nanshan and frowned. "Brother Yan, why are you looking for me in such a hurry?" Yan Nanshan said, "Please take a seat. There are two people who are not here yet." The king of Yen frowned and walked to the side to sit down. He sized up Qin Feiyong and Elder Cheng suspiciously. Whoosh. Soon, Ma Chang brought Elder He and finally arrived at the conference hall. "The king of Yen is here too?" The two of them were stunned and their eyes were filled with confusion. "Please take a seat." Yan Nanshan smiled. The two of them sat beside the king of Yen. Yan Nanshan looked at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong walked to the center of the conference hall and looked at Ma Chang and the other two. "Before we talk about business, I would like to ask if the others know that you are here at the Martial Imperial Hall?" The three of them shook their heads. Ma Chang frowned again and sized up Qin Feiyong. He looked at Yan Nanshan and asked, "Who is he?" Yan Nanshan said, "He is someone you are familiar with." The three of them were even more confused. Qin Feiyong looked at Elder Wan and Elder Ji. "Please stand guard outside. During this period of time, no one is allowed to come near the conference hall." The two of them nodded and flew out of the conference hall. They stood at the top of the conference hall and scanned their surroundings. Ma Chang and the other two exchanged glances. What was it that made them so cautious? Qin Feiyong took out a facial restoration elixir and popped it into his mouth. Immediately, the three of them suddenly stood up and stared fixedly at Qin Feiyong. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyong said, "Everyone in Yen County, including Pan County, thought that I, Qin Feiyong, was dead. Unfortunately, I am still alive and well." How could this be? Ma Chang and the other two looked at Yan Nanshan in shock. Yan Nanshan said, "Today, I will listen to Qin Feiyong's arrangements." The three of them shuddered. They all had a premonition that something big was about to happen. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and said, "Seniors, the county of Yen is no longer what it used to be. A storm of blood is brewing, and as such, I beg of you to put aside your personal grudges for the time being." The three raised their eyebrows and returned to their seats. The king of Yen said, "Go ahead. I have two conversations here. You will understand what is going on after listening to them." Qin Feiyong called out Fatso and Lu Hong and said, "Fatso, record your conversation and let the three seniors listen to it." Fatso took out the image crystal. What he had recorded was precisely the conversation that had taken place in the Swallow Pan mountain range. Voices rang out one after another. The faces of Ma Chang and the others turned even colder. When the king of Yen heard that the first prince wanted old ancestor Lin to kill Wei Tai, he could no longer control his emotions. He slammed his palm on the armrest. Bastard! Even killing his own younger brother, this unfilial son really deserves to die. He was so angry that his body was trembling. Qin Feiyong said, "After listening to this, I believe that the 3 seniors should know what is going on without having to continue. Fatso put away the image crystal. Lu Hong also took out the image crystal and said, Your Excellency, I have recorded the conversation between the Grand Commander and Xueqi. The King of Yen quivered and said in a low voice, The Grand Commander is also involved in this matter? Lu Hong said, You will know after listening to it. The image crystal glowed with rays of brilliance. A conversation slowly rang out in the main hall. After listening to it, the King of Yen clenched his hands tightly, looking as if he was heartbroken. Ma Cheng and Elder He were not any better. In just over a year, Xueqi's evil claws have infiltrated the Danwang Hall, the Lin family, the royal family and the treasure pavilion. At this rate, the entire county of Yen will soon be under his control. If he breaks through to the 9-star combat emperor, it will be the end of the county of Yen. Therefore, we must work together and wipe out the Blood Slaughter Palace in one fell swoop. Qin Feiyong said. The King of Yen said in a low voice, This is a family matter of the royal family. I will settle it myself. No outsiders are allowed to interfere. Yen Nanshan's face darkened and shouted, What do you mean, King of Yen? The King of Yen said, Did I say anything wrong? Yen Nanshan said in a low voice, Your current actions are obviously to protect them. You must understand the seriousness of this matter. Did I say that I will protect them? The King of Yen glared at Yen Nanshan. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. The King of Yen Nanshan was still playing the same trick at this point. He looked at Ma Cheng and asked, Palace Master Ma Cheng, what is your decision? Ma Cheng said, Xuan must be killed. However, I think that we can spare Jia He and the others. Because as long as Xuan is dead, they will naturally reflect on their actions. Qin Feiyong was so angry that he laughed. Was this the Danwang Hall of the County of Yen? Was this the royal family of the County of Yen? What a disappointment. Ran Wushuang said, Feiyong, since they are so stubborn, cut the crap and report it to the government. At the same time, ask the government to change the blood of the County of Yen. Ma Cheng and the King of Yen looked at Ran Wushuang coldly. The change of blood meant that they would be removed from the throne and the position of palace master. If this matter really alerted the government, they might not be able to keep their positions. They might even lose their lives. This woman was so vicious. Ran Wushuang said calmly, Although this is the first time I have met you, I can see that you are not worthy of this responsibility. It is better for you to abdicate and give up your positions. Well said. Yen Nanshan cheered in his heart. Who do you think you are? Who are you to speak here? Ma Cheng and the King of Yan's eyes were flashing with a shocking murderous intent. The lion-headed eagle suddenly unleashed its ferocious aura. It looked at the two of them fiercely and said, How dare you speak to the master like that? Do you want to die? What a terrifying aura. Ma Cheng and the King of Yan's pupils contracted. Be quiet. Ran Wushuang reached out and patted the lion-headed eagle. She glanced at Ma Cheng and the King of Yen and smiled at Qin Feiyong. I have established a contract with Wang Hong. I will help you inform him now. Qin Feiyong said, Thank you, sister. Wang Hong. Are you from the government? The King of Yen and the King of Yen turned pale with fright. Ran Wushuang did not answer. She took out the image crystal directly. Miss, wait. The King of Yen hurried forward to stop her and said, I will listen to Qin Feiyong's arrangement. Please have mercy on them. Ma Cheng also said righteously at once, Jia He and the others colluded with Xuan. They deserve to die. I will never protect them. A moment ago, he was still desperately protecting his son. The next moment, he looked as if he hated evil. Qin Feiyong and the others despised his hypocrisy. Ren Wushuang said calmly, How do I know that you won't say one thing to my face and another behind my back? Absolutely not. We swear. The King of Yen and the King of Yen said, Well, as long as you listen to my brother's arrangement obediently, I will pretend that I don't know anything. Ran Wushuang put away the image crystal. The two finally heaved a sigh of relief and wiped off the cold sweat on their foreheads. Yen Nanshan smiled and said, Feiyong, quickly arrange it. Qin Feiyong nodded. In fact, he would not report it to the government. Because in this way, Ma Cheng and the others would not be the only ones punished. Yen Nanshan and the other two would also be punished. Qin Feiyong sent Fatso and the King of Yen into the ancient castle. He turned and walked out of the main hall, looking up at the sky. Yan Nanshan and the others followed him out. At this moment, the sky had completely darkened. Dark clouds covered the moon and stars. Heaven and earth were plunged into deep darkness. Even the heavens are helping me. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. He said, let's cut off Xuan's wings first. The first place is the Danwang Hall. Then let's go. Yan Nanshan waved his hand. The group concealed their aura and silently flew toward the Danwang Hall. As long as they did not release their battle chi, even the spies guarding the entrance of the Martial Imperial Hall would not be able to find them. Qin Feiyong said in a low voice, Sister, I'm still a little worried. When we reach the Danwang Hall, ask Old Eagle to cripple Jia He immediately. Okay. Ran Wushuang nodded. In the Danwang Hall's law enforcement hall, Jia He was sitting at the coffee table in the lounge, fantasizing about a beautiful future. Bang! Suddenly, the door was slammed open by a strong force. Who is so bold? Do you want to die? Jia He was instantly enraged. It's not me who's going to die today. It's you. Qin Feiyong strode into the lounge. Why are you here? Aren't you already dead? Jia He suddenly stood up and looked at him in disbelief. Are you disappointed? Qin Feiyong raised the corner of his mouth. Jia He's eyes became extremely gloomy. You're really lucky. Before he could finish speaking, Ran Wushuang, Yan Nanshan, and the others walked into the lounge one after another. Jia He felt that something was wrong when he saw this. Ma Cheng looked at him with disappointment and said in a low voice, Jia He, you've really disappointed me. Jia He hurriedly said, Temple Master, please listen to me. But at this moment, Old Eagle, Ran Wushuang shouted in a low voice. The lion-headed eagle on his shoulder immediately leaped out like lightning. Before Jia He could react, it had already pierced through his chest, leaving behind a palm-sized bloody hole. Fresh blood spurted out several meters away. A war emperor was crippled just like that. Ma Cheng suddenly looked at Ran Wushuang, his eyes extremely gloomy. Ran Wushuang said indifferently, Have you forgotten what I said before? Hearing that, Ma Cheng hurriedly looked away, his eyes filled with fear. Qin Feiyong looked at Jia He, who was kneeling on the ground and screaming miserably, and said, Elder Wan, I'll have to trouble you to accompany Elder He to capture Xueyong and the other two. Elder Wan said with a smile, Elder He, please. Humph. Elder He snorted coldly and turned to leave. Qin Feiyong obviously didn't believe him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed Elder Wan to accompany him. Elder Wan, however, had a cold smile on his face as he followed with large strides. Qin Feiyong took out the Chong Shui, walked in front of Jia He, and said with a faint smile, You didn't think that I would come back to find you, did you? Jia He didn't look at him, but looked at Ma Cheng and said, Temple Master, you have to listen to my explanation. Your heart is already gone. No matter how much you explain, isn't it still a dead end? Moreover, you've already had the chance to explain. I recorded the conversation between you and Xuan in the Swallow Pan Mountain Range. Senior Ma Cheng already knows about it. Qin Feiyong smiled brightly. He had wanted to kill this person for a long time, but he never had the chance. Chapter 256. Did you record it? Jia He's eyes were glazed over. Ma Cheng shouted, Tell me, why did you collude with Xuan? Haha, Jia He laughed. His laughter was filled with unwillingness. His eyes were filled with hatred. Why? It was because of you. As long as I get rid of you and Lao He, the position of the Temple Master of Danwang Hall will naturally be mine. Damn it! My dream was about to come true, but it was ruined by this little bastard. Qin Feiyong, don't be so smug. One day, you will die a worse death than me. Ma Cheng will not let you go, Lao He will not let you go, and Prince Yan will not let you go either. Everyone in the county of Yan, except for the Martial Imperial Hall, wants to kill you. Jia He laughed hysterically. Qin Feiyong looked up at the two and smiled. Prince Yan, Senior Ma Cheng, is this true? Don't listen to his nonsense. He's trying to sow discord. The two of them said gloomily. At this moment, Elder Wan and Elder He grabbed Xueyong and the other two and strode into the resting room, throwing them on the ground. How is this possible? The three of them were puzzled at first. However, when they saw Qin Feiyong, they looked as if they had seen a ghost. They were so scared that their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. Just in time. Qin Feiyong smirked and slit Jia Hei's throat with the Chongshuer in his hand. Blood splattered everywhere. The blood splattered on the three of them. The three of them were scared out of their wits and knelt on the ground. Qin Feiyong, we were wrong. You know, we were forced to do this. If we didn't join the blood-slaying palace, Xuan and the first prince would kill us. Before Qin Feiyong could say anything, the three of them kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Qin Feiyong said calmly, Prince of Yen, you have heard the conversation between Jia Hei and them. Now we have irrefutable evidence, right? Yen Qing ordered, kill them all. Leave no one alive. No, we'll change. Qin Feiyong, please spare our worthless lives. We promise that we'll behave ourselves in the future. Xueqi and the other two's faces were ashen as their foreheads were bruised. If I spare you, wouldn't Zhang Zhengyi and Ling Yunfei's deaths be in vain? Qin Feiyong roared ferociously. With a thought, Wolf King appeared out of thin air. I'm about to go crazy from holding it in. Trash. Go accompany Ling Yunfei and the others in death. As soon as the Wolf King came out, he revealed his white fangs and pounced towards the three of them. Ah! Accompanied by three miserable screams, the three men's heads were bitten off. Even Yan Nanshan and the other big shots couldn't bear to look at the bloody scene. Wolf King shouted. Next place, the royal palace. Elder He cupped his hands and said, Palace Master, I won't go. I'll stay and bury them. Qin Feiyong said, Elder Wan, you stay in the Danwang Hall too. Keep the news from spreading. Understood. Elder Wan nodded. Qin Feiyong, don't go overboard. Elder He stared at Qin Feiyong with a gloomy expression. Senior, please forgive me. This is a special time. Of course we have to use special means. If you continue to act like this, I'll have to suspect that you're also from the Blood Slaughter Palace. Qin Feiyong said calmly. You. Elder He was unable to restrain his anger. Enough. Ma Cheng shouted coldly. Tonight, we'll listen to Qin Feiyong's arrangements. No one in the Danwang Hall has any objections. Yes. Elder He finally lowered his head and replied with a bow. Let's go. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the group of people majestically flew towards the palace. Elder Wan laughed and said, Old He, although we're old friends, you can't act recklessly at this time. Otherwise, Qin Feiyong might really report this to the government. Elder He harumphed and said, If he reports this to the government, all of you will be finished. Elder Wan smiled and said, As long as the county of Yen is peaceful, we don't mind being punished. Since when did you become so righteous and benevolent? I'm really impressed. Elder He had a mocking look on his face. Elder Wan ignored him and looked at him with a smile. He didn't want to give Elder He any chance to leak the news. The royal palace. Inside a palace. I just need to refine a few hundred more and I'll be able to break through to the 2-star combat emperor realm. Why isn't Lin Chen here yet? The Grand Commander muttered to himself as he paced back and forth. Dong dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Coming. His expression changed and he quickly went to open the door. However, the moment he opened the door, he froze. How could it be Qin Feiyong? And Yan Nanshan, Ma Cheng, King Yen? However, he was still the Grand Commander of the royal family. He quickly calmed down and said in surprise, Qin Feiyong, it's great that you're still alive. Is that so? Qin Feiyong chuckled and said, Aren't you going to invite me in? It's my honor. Please come in. The Grand Commander smiled and stepped aside. After the group walked in, Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Elder Ji, please call the first prince here. Okay. The beautiful woman nodded and turned into a ray of light, disappearing into the night sky. The Grand Commander's pupils shrank. I'll go too. King Yen said. Qin Feiyong said, King Yen, you don't have to go. Elder Ji will bring him here later. The King Yen frowned but chose to endure it in the end. Qin Feiyong shouted, Close the door. Yan Nanshan waved his hand and the door slammed shut. The Grand Commander suddenly had an uneasy premonition. Could his identity have been exposed? Impossible. His identity was only known to Jia Hei, Patriarch Lin, and Xuan. Even the first prince was kept in the dark. These people definitely did not know. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Grand Commander, you're waiting for someone, right? The Grand Commander's pupils constricted and he shook his head. No, why do you ask? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, given Lin Chen's speed, I'm afraid he will only send you the blood demon elixir at midnight. What? The Grand Commander was shocked. Swoosh. At this moment, the lion-head eagle pierced through his chest at lightning speed. Ah! The Grand Commander screamed and sprawled on the ground, his face twisted. The King Yen also frowned. Qin Feiyang ignored him and kicked the Grand Commander to the ground. He stepped on his lower abdomen and said with a smile, You hid very well. Unfortunately, I still found you in the end. What did you say? Why did you do this to me? How did I offend you? The Grand Commander roared hysterically. You didn't offend me. You can only blame yourself for being Xueqi's henchman. Not long ago, when you were communicating with Xueqi, I was hiding in Xueqi's cultivation room. Qin Feiyang smiled and said. The Grand Commander felt as if he had been struck by lightning. You're really stupid. Can't you see that Xueqi is just using you? You're too naive to want to inherit the position of Duke. Even if the King Yen and the First Prince are dead, it won't be your turn. If the Duke changes hands, the Emperor will have to make the decision personally. In other words, you'll only be qualified to inherit the position with the Emperor's permission. Qin Feiyang sneered. Yan Nanshan and the others looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. How did he know this? Ren Wuxuang was also in disbelief. Could it be that this brother of his was really from the imperial capital? Can I kill him now? Wolf King stared at the Grand Commander fiercely. As you wish, Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King immediately pounced on the Grand Commander. The King Yan's lips moved, but in the end, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Ah! With a shrill scream, the Grand Commander's neck was bitten by Wolf King. What's going on? At this moment, the First Prince came to the door. When he heard the scream inside, his face was full of shock. The beautiful woman waved her hand and an invisible force knocked the door open. She smiled and said, Your Highness, go in. Why are they all here? The First Prince was inexplicably flustered when he saw all the leaders inside. Something's not right. I seem to have missed something. He seemed to have seen two familiar figures when he hurriedly glanced around. And these two figures had always been his nightmare. Once again, he looked at them one by one. His gaze was suddenly fixed on the man and the wolf. Immediately, his head exploded. He felt that the sky was falling. How could it be them? He must be seeing things. He rubbed his eyes with all his might and looked at her again. The man and the wolf were still there. Suddenly, fear that couldn't be dispelled emerged in his heart. Weren't they dead? Why were they still alive? They must be here to take revenge. His father must have already known that he had sided with Xueqi. What should he do now? The First Prince's legs seemed to be stuck to the ground and he could not move even half a step. Qin Feiyang said playfully, Your Highness, it's a reunion with an old friend. Don't you want to come in and have some fun? The First Prince's eyes trembled and he saw the Grand Commander lying on the ground. He waved his hand and said with a smile, No, I still have something to do. You guys talk. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. The King Yan's eyes darkened and he shouted, Get in here immediately. The First Prince's body and mind were trembling. His legs were weak and he was overwhelmed by deep fear. Qin Feiyang said jokingly, as the First Prince of the royal family and the future successor of the county of Yen, You actually colluded with Xueqi. I really don't know what you are thinking. Thump. The First Prince's heart completely collapsed. He collapsed on the ground and his face was full of despair. The beautiful woman grabbed him and threw him into the main hall as if she was throwing garbage. He quickly got up and knelt in front of the King Yen. He said, Father, I was forced to do this. Please believe me. You were also forced to kill your own brother? Get lost. The King Yen roared and kicked the First Prince. The First Prince howled and rolled beside the Grand Commander's body. Qin Feiyang said, The Grand Commander is also Xueqi's lackey. You will be like him later. Your throat will be bitten by the Wolf King and you will slowly die in endless pain. The First Prince's face was pale. He lay on the ground and his eyes were full of helplessness. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled up, but his eyes were shining with a shocking cold light. He hated this person the most. If this person had not betrayed him at the critical moment, He could have brought Xueqi and the others to hide in the ancient castle. In this way no one would die. It could be said that this person was the biggest accomplice. The King Yen glanced at the first prince gloomily and then looked at Qin Feiyong. He put down his pride and dignity and begged, "Qin Feiyong, although he's wrong, he's still my son. Right now, he's still my only son. Even if you don't give the monk face, give the Buddha face. For my sake, can you give the net a way out?" "No," Qin Feiyong said without the slightest hesitation. Chapter 257. The King of Yan's expression changed immediately. He was the king of a county and had a noble status. This was the first time he had to lower his voice to a junior. However, the other party did not give him face. Did he want him to kneel down? Qin Feiyong said meaningfully, "King of Yan, you can have another son if you lose your son. However, if you lose your position as the king of a county, you will never be able to make a comeback." The King of Yan clenched his fingers tightly and glared at Qin Feiyong coldly. Finally, he made up his mind and turned to look elsewhere, shouting, "Kill me quickly." "Father," the eldest prince shouted. Even his father did not care about his life and death. He was really dead this time. "I can't accept this. I have already opened the first level of the door of potential. My future is limitless. I can't die here." He screamed as if he had gone mad. Qin Feiyong was shocked. He turned to look at the King of Yan and asked, "You gave him the potential elixir?" The King of Yan said angrily, "Kill him quickly. Don't be so long-winded." Qin Feiyong shook his head and said regretfully, "Such a good potential pill was actually wasted by a dog. What a waste of God's gift." The King of Yan was so angry that his body was trembling. The eldest prince was his son. If he called the eldest prince a dog, wouldn't that mean that he was also a dog? This little bastard deserved to die. "Qin Feiyong!" The eldest prince suddenly roared. He stood up and glared at Qin Feiyong with hatred. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Let's make a bet." "Bet?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. He smiled faintly and said, "Tell me about it." The eldest prince said provocatively, "Let's fight one-on-one. If I win, you will let me go. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me." One-on-one? Qin Feiyong looked at the eldest prince in shock. He really couldn't figure out where the first prince got the courage to challenge him. However, a glimmer of hope rose in the King of Yan's heart. Ever since the first prince broke through the martial artist extreme state, his cultivation speed had increased by leaps and bounds. Although Qin Feiyong had already unlocked the second level of the Gate of Potential, in terms of age, there was still a certain gap between him and the first prince. Therefore, he believed that his son would definitely win. Now, it was up to Qin Feiyong to see if he had the guts to accept the first prince's challenge. Yan Nanshan and the beautiful woman looked at each other with worry in their eyes. The beautiful woman could not help but advise, "Feiyong, this kind of meaningless battle is simply a waste of time. There is no need to agree." "Haha," the first prince laughed madly. "Qin Feiyong, haven't you always been arrogant? Don't you care about anyone? How come you don't even dare to accept the challenge of a prisoner? Looks like you're just a useless coward." He laughed without restraint. The corners of Qin Feiyong's lips curled up as he smiled faintly. "Aren't you just trying to goad me into agreeing with you? All right, as you wish." Yan Nanshan and the beautiful woman instantly frowned. Wolf King, Ran Wushuang, Lion-Headed Eagle, and Xueying's eyes were filled with deep mockery. "Everyone back off." King Yen sneered secretly as he stretched out his hand and shouted. Everyone retreated by a few meters to make space for Qin Feiyong and the first prince to fight. "Come on." Qin Feiyong flicked his sleeves and placed his hands behind his back. His eyes were calm and he looked unruffled as he displayed an unparalleled confidence. "Haha, you're the one who's looking for death. Don't blame me for being ruthless." The first prince laughed madly as his aura suddenly exploded. Six-star martial ancestor? Qin Feiyong was surprised. It looked like the first prince had refined quite a number of blood spirit pills during this period. He deserved to die. If you have the guts, don't dodge. Overlord fist. The first prince roared provocatively. Like an overlord returning, he punched towards Qin Feiyong. As long as Qin Feiyong didn't dodge, He had absolute confidence that he could smash Qin Feiyong into smithereens with one punch. There wouldn't even be any smithereens left behind. All right, as you wish again, I won't dodge. Qin Feiyong nodded his head. His expression was as calm as usual. Arrogant. King Yan's eyes shone with a shocking cold light. You're still as stubborn as ever. I'll send you to hell right now. Die. The first prince was surrounded by a substantial murderous aura. His face was also filled with a cruel smile. His fist was about to hit Qin Feiyong's chest. Yan Nanshan and the beautiful woman's eyelids twitched. They almost couldn't help but save him. But at this moment, tiger binding hand. Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. He stretched out his right hand that was behind his back at lightning speed. With a snap, he grabbed the first prince's wrist directly. The first prince's fist was only 3 inches away from his chest. However, in the first prince's eyes, this 3 inches distance was like a natural moat that was difficult to cross. He couldn't take another step forward. How can this be? The smile on his face froze instantly and was replaced by deep disbelief. I don't believe it. He roared furiously. His vital energy gushed out without any regard for his life. His power was surging wildly. However, even if he used all his strength, he couldn't take another step forward. Right then, the entire place was silent. All the magnates were dumbstruck. They clearly remembered that when Qin Feiyong went to Pan County to participate in the friendly competition, he was only a 1-star martial grandmaster. How long had it been? His ability could actually crush the first prince who was a 6-star martial artist? Is this a dream? Even if he opened the second level of the Gate of Potential, it couldn't be that fast? Why? In terms of hard work, I'm more hardworking than you. In terms of talent, I'm not worse than you. In terms of elixirs, you have Supreme Grade Qi Gathering Elixir and I have Blood Fury Elixir. You've only opened one more level of the Gate of Potential than me. But why is your speed faster than mine? The first prince looked at Qin Feiyong ferociously and roared hysterically. Fatso is already very shameless. However, there is someone who is even more shameless than him. How dare he say that his talent is not worse than little Qin Zi's? Little worm, tell me quickly. Where did you get your courage from? Wolf King chuckled. In the entire county of Yen, who dared to compete with Qin Feiyong in terms of talent? He had seen a lot of shameless people, but this was the first time he had met someone as shameless as him. He thought that he was so great, but in fact, he was a complete idiot and a clown in the eyes of others. Bastard, after I kill Qin Feiyong, I'll kill you immediately. These words made the first prince extremely ashamed and angry. With a loud roar, he raised his other arm and crazily attacked Qin Feiyong. After being so arrogant for so long, it's time for you to pay the blood debt. Qin Feiyong's eyes surged with murderous intent. His entire temperament changed drastically in an instant. Like a war god from hell, his body exuded an astonishing murderous aura. He squeezed his 5 fingers hard. Crack! The first prince's wrist was shattered. Ah! The intense pain immediately turned into raging waves that violently impacted every nerve in the first prince's body, causing him to scream in pain. This punch is for Jiang Jingyi. Qin Feiyong roared. He punched the first prince's lower abdomen. Ugh! The first prince's body arched and he spat out a mouthful of blood. This punch is for Ling Yunfei. Qin Feiyong punched again. He did not use any martial arts techniques. He did not use his true qi, because he was afraid that he would directly kill the first prince. This punch is for Luo Qingzhu. This punch is for Zhao Shuang-er. This punch is for Feng Ling-er. Bang! Bang! Ah! Qin Feiyong's eyes were blood red. Like a mad bison, he punched the first prince's lower abdomen again and again. That terrifying gaze. That shocking murderous intent. Even the supergiants like Yan Nanshan could not help but be frightened. As for the first prince, he was like a human sandbag. He could not summon the slightest strength to resist and could only be beaten. His screams echoed in the main hall. His eyes were filled with desolation and despair. Bang! Qin Feiyong punched the last time. The first prince flew out and crashed into a stone pillar. Immediately, his head was broken and bleeding, and he saw stars. I beg you, kill me! He lay on the ground, bleeding all over. He begged weakly. Killing you is too easy for you. Qin Feiyong walked over step by step. His gaze was bone-chilling, like a cold-blooded god of death. Who can give me a quick death? The first prince raised his head with difficulty and glanced at the King of Yen and the rest with a miserable gaze. Me. The King of Yen bared his teeth and raised his hand. A stream of battle chi appeared and turned into an arrow. It shot into the first prince's glabella at lightning speed. Immediately, the first prince's head tilted and he fell to the ground, dead. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He turned to look at the King of Yen, his eyes flashing fiercely. But then, he pursed his lips with a mocking smile and said, "It must be very painful to kill your own son with your own hands, right?" The King of Yen almost went crazy and his body trembled violently. The next moment, a gush of hot blood rushed to his throat and he spat it out. Qin Feiyong's expression changed. He said hurriedly, "King of Yen, are you all right? You are the King of Yen County. You must take care of your body." The King of Yen was so angry that he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. A look of disdain flashed across Qin Feiyong's eyes. He said with concern, "Senior King of Yen, although I can understand how you are feeling now, the elimination plan cannot go on without you. Can you still continue? Little bastard. I swear that I am not human if I don't kill you." The King of Yen roared in his heart. He squeezed out a very stiff smile and said, "Don't worry about me. Although he is my son, he has committed such a grave mistake and deserves to die. I will not feel sad for him." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and smiled. "Senior is indeed a selfless person. I admire you. Our first target is the Lin family." At the mention of the Lin family, the Wolf King's eyes flashed with a strong murderous intent. Qin Feiyong glanced at it and turned to look at the beautiful woman. He said, "Elder Ji, please stay in the palace and seal off the news. Capture Lin Chen while you are at it." "Leave it to me." The beautiful woman nodded and smiled. Swoosh! The group walked out of the main hall and rushed into the sky. The Lin family was also in the East City district. In a few breaths, the group arrived in the sky above the Lin family. Wolf King looked down and said telepathically, "Little Qin Zi, we must destroy the Lin family tonight. Yan Nanshan and the rest will definitely not agree. But don't worry, I will make the arrangements later." Qin Feiyong replied secretly, "Okay." Wolf King's eyes were extremely terrifying at this moment. "Hallmaster, I can only trouble you to capture Lin Hua and Lin Hao and bring them to Patriarch Lin's residence to meet us." Chapter 258. Yan Nanshan nodded. Like a ghost, he entered the Lin family without anyone noticing. Qin Feiyong smiled, "Senior King Yan, you should know where Patriarch Lin lives. Lead the way." Swoosh! King Yan dashed towards the backyard of the Lin family without hesitation. Ma Cheng followed closely behind. Qin Feiyong followed beside Ran Wushuang and whispered, "Old Eagle, let's follow the old rules. Don't let Patriarch Lin have a chance." "Are you still worried about me?" Lion-headed Eagle glanced at him with disdain. In the backyard of the Lin family, there was a small independent attic. There were 2 floors in total. A weak candlelight shone through one of the windows on the second floor. Patriarch Lin was sitting cross-legged on the bed, refining the blood-killing pill. The surroundings of the attic were quiet. Qin Feiyong and the rest landed silently beside the garden in front of the attic. Ma Cheng whispered in a serious tone, "Patriarch Lin is a 5-star combat emperor. He is not weak. We have to kill him with one blow." 5-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyong was shocked. He was even stronger than Elder Wan and the rest. It seemed that he had to think of a foolproof plan. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. He looked at Old Eagle on Ren Wushuang's shoulder and whispered, "We have to change our strategy. Later, you hide in my sleeve and act according to the situation. Senior King Yen, Senior Ma Cheng, you two hide on both sides of the window to prevent him from escaping. Sister, it's cool in the sky. You go up there and watch over the Lin family for me. If anyone sneaks out, kill him immediately." Qin Feiyong quickly made arrangements. "Just say it if you think I'm a hindrance." Ran Wushuang rolled his eyes and flew up to the sky, looking down. Lion-headed Eagle also slipped into Qin Feiyong's sleeve. He hid his aura and waited for orders. After Ma Cheng and King Yen hid well, Qin Feiyong took a deep breath. He sent Wolf King into the castle and strode to the window. Immediately, He leaped up and entered old Ancestor Lin's room. Who is it? Ancestor Lin immediately sensed that someone had barged in. He opened his eyes abruptly and 2 beams of intense cold light shot out from his eyes. Who is it? When he saw the person's face clearly, Patriarch Lin immediately stood up. His old face was filled with shock. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "You made me die so miserably. Of course I have to come back to visit you." Old Ancestor Lin's pupils constricted and he said warily, "Are you human or ghost?" "Guess." Qin Feiyong found a chair and sat on it. He raised his head and grinned at old Ancestor Lin. Old Ancestor Lin actually felt a little apprehensive. "If you're a human, I'll kill you again. If you are a ghost, this old man will destroy both your soul and body, never to be reincarnated." Killing intent surged in old Ancestor Lin's eyes as a terrifying pressure enveloped Qin Feiyong. The moment the pressure enveloped him, Qin Feiyong's face contorted. He felt like he was going to suffocate to death. Seeing this, old Ancestor Lin came to a realization and sneered. "Looks like you're not a ghost. Then this old man wants to see who's pretending to be a ghost." He took a step forward and took out a Heaven's Eye stone. He grabbed Qin Feiyong's wrist and pressed it on the Heaven's Eye stone. He thought the Qin Feiyong in front of him was someone else pretending to be him. However, he didn't know that this was what Qin Feiyong wanted the most. It was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. When his hand pressed on the Heaven's Eye stone, the lion-headed eagle hiding in his sleeve was like a sharp arrow. It swept out like lightning and went straight for old Ancestor Lin's chest. Not good. Old Ancestor Lin suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis in his heart. He didn't let his cultivation down. He quickly moved his feet. Puff! The lion-headed eagle pierced through old Ancestor Lin's chest. A bloody hole the size of a palm immediately appeared. Blood splattered 3 feet. But because he moved that step, it didn't hurt his heart. Humph! He groaned in pain. He immediately realized that he had been tricked. He turned around without hesitation and rushed toward the window. A 5-star combat emperor is indeed not someone Jia He and the Grand Commander can compare to. Qin Feiyong mumbled. But was it possible to escape? Without waiting for old Ancestor Lin to rush out of the window, King Yan and Ma Cheng, who were hiding behind the window, attacked at the same time. Battle Chi surged and slapped old Ancestor Lin's body. Ah! Old Ancestor Lin screamed and was slapped back into the room. At the same time, the lion-headed eagle seized the opportunity and pounced again. Its sharp claws tore open old Ancestor Lin's chest and crushed his heart. Bang! Old Ancestor Lin rolled on the ground. Blood gushed out like a fountain and dyed the floor red. It hurts. The intense pain brought about by his heart being crushed made him unable to help but howl in pain even with his cultivation. But more than that, he was surprised. King Yan and Ma Cheng were actually here? And they were outside, ambushing him? Qin Feiyong got up, raised his right foot, and stepped on old Ancestor Lin's mouth. He smiled and said, "I'm not a ghost, nor am I an imposter. Because I'm not dead." Old Ancestor Lin's pupils constricted. He was filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyong loosened his foot and said with a smile, "Your current expression is exactly the same as Jia He and the Grand Commanders." Old Ancestor Lin shook his head and said, "This is not true. I saw you being killed by Zhang Zhengyi with my own eyes." Zhang Zhengyi did attack, but he did not hurt my heart. He did that to protect me. A trace of melancholy crept up between Qin Feiyong's brows. "Damn Zhang Zhengyi!" Old Ancestor Lin roared with resentment. "You still dare to blame him?" Qin Feiyong was instantly enraged and kicked old Ancestor Lin's head. "If you did not sneak attack Zhang Zhengyi, would he have died? He trusted you so much and you actually harmed him. Do you still have any humanity left? Old man, I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death today." Qin Feiyong was like a furious lion, riding on old Ancestor Lin and punching his face crazily. Blood splattered everywhere. Before long, old Ancestor Lin's face was mangled and he did not look human anymore. Clang! He took out Chang Shui and chopped off old Ancestor Lin's limbs. Finally, old Ancestor Lin was tortured to death by him. At the same time as old Ancestor Lin died, Qin Feiyong sat on the ground and panted heavily. Swoosh! A moment later, he let out a long breath and looked at old Ancestor Lin's corpse. He whispered, Senior Zhang, Ling Yunfei, I've killed all the accomplices who killed you. Now it's Xueran's turn. A ferocious glint flashed in his eyes. He walked to the window and jumped down, landing on the flat ground below. The lion-headed eagle also flew out and stopped on his shoulder. King Yan and Ma Cheng looked at the miserable old ancestor Lin and sighed deeply. They also jumped out of the window. Whoosh! Yan Nanshan grabbed Lin Hao in one hand and Lin Hua in the other and flew over. Why aren't you dead? When they saw Qin Feiyong covered in blood, their faces turned pale. Yan Nanshan stopped in mid-air and threw the two of them in front of Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong glanced at the two of them and looked at Lin Hao. Have your bird eggs been cured? It's you? Lin Hao was shocked. The scene that happened in Zhanbao Pavilion came to his mind involuntarily. Qin Feiyong ignored him and waved his hand. Wolf King appeared out of thin air and said calmly, "Do whatever you want. Who are you? How dare you come to the Lin family and behave atrociously?" At this moment, Lin Han led a group of battle monarchs with torches in their hands as they ran over aggressively. King Yan, Palace Master Ma, Palace Master Yan. When they saw King Yan and the others, the group of people stopped in unison and their faces were full of shock. Family head, look, that's Qin Feiyong and Wolf King. A burly man pointed at the man and wolf and shouted in disbelief. What? Aren't they dead? Why are they here? Lin Han and the others glared at him and their mouths were wide open. Qin Feiyong ignored them and looked at Ran Wushuang. Sister, you can come down now. Whoosh! Ran Wushuang was dressed in white and her hair danced in the wind. She looked like a fairy from the 9 heavens and landed in front of Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong waved his hand again and took Fatso and Lu Hong out of the castle. Then, he leaned over to Ran Wushuang and whispered, "Sister, do me a favor." After he finished speaking, Ran Wushuang frowned. After pondering for a while, she nodded slightly and looked at the eagle. "Protect Feiyong." The lion-headed eagle smiled. "Master, don't worry. I won't let your cheap brother lose a single hair. Be careful." Ran Wushuang also looked at Qin Feiyong and reminded him. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at Ma Cheng, King Yan and Yan Nanshan. He smiled and said, "It's time to deal with the main character. Let's go outside the city." Outside the city? The three of them were puzzled. Shouldn't they go to the treasure pavilion? They didn't ask any more questions and soared into the sky, silently flying out of the city. White-eyed wolf, don't be in a hurry. Wait until we fight with Zhua, and Qin Feiyong secretly told Wolf King through telepathy. Then, the lion-headed eagle brought Qin Feiyong and chased after Yan Nanshan and the other two. What the hell is going on? Lin Han's mind was in a mess. He looked at Wolf King and Ran Wushuang and the others and said angrily, "What are you doing in my Lin family? Let go of Lin Hao and Lin Hua." The group of War King behind him also immediately drew their blades. "Let them go?" Wolf King slowly walked towards Lin Hao and Lin Hua. His pair of green eyes flickered with an incomparably ferocious light. "Blood Eagle, go up to the sky and guard them. If anyone leaves, inform me." Ran Wushuang patted the Blood Eagle on his shoulder. The Blood Eagle immediately flapped its wings and flew above the Lin family. Its pair of blood-red eagle eyes were like two blades, incomparably sharp. Wolf King suddenly howled, opened his bloody mouth and pounced towards Lin Hua. "How dare you!" Lin Han's killing intent rose. Humph! However, at this time, the might of a war emperor enveloped the entire place. Lin Han and the others all looked at Ran Wushuang, their eyes filled with fear and fear. Where did Qin Feiyong find this sister? Bastard! Don't be arrogant. Of course, Lin Hua would not sit still and wait for death, and immediately began to counterattack. At the same time, Lin Hao also got up, stepped on an auxiliary martial skill, and struck towards Wolf King with the origin returning palm. However, both of them were too naive. How could they be a match for Wolf King? In less than 3 breaths, their heads were crushed by Wolf King, and blood splattered everywhere. However, eldest young master, Lin Hua, Lin Han and the others bared their teeth, their eyes spitting out dense flames of hatred. Someone shouted, "Ancestor, quickly come out and kill them." Fatso crossed his arms over his chest and sneered. "It's useless. He can't come out because he has already been killed by boss." "The ancestor is dead? I don't believe it." The group of people shook their heads desperately. Ran Wushuang's slender fingers moved, and a stream of battle qi gushed out. It flew into the window, rolled up the corpse of Ancestor Lin, and flew out again. Bang! The corpse landed in front of Lin Han and the others. The group of people were dumbstruck, and their torches and weapons fell to the ground. From now on, if anyone dares to move, I will kill them. Ran Wushuang said indifferently. Chapter 259. At the same time, Qin Feiyong and the others left Yen City quietly. They entered deep into the mountains and landed in front of a river. The river was about a meter wide and the water was flowing rapidly. On both sides of the river, there were endless forests with powerful beasts roaming around. But as soon as they sensed the aura of the lion-headed eagle, they fled in panic. The aquatic beasts lurking in the water also fled far away. Yan Nanshan looked around and asked, Qin Feiyong, what's the next step? Lure Xuan out. Qin Feiyong's eyes sparkled. Xuan was too powerful. He could not kill him with one blow. Once they fought in the city, many innocent people would be killed. So, he must be lured out of the city first. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. He turned to look at Ma Cheng and said, Senior, do you remember what happened in the Black Bear Mountain? I don't want to repeat the same mistake today. Ma Cheng felt uncomfortable when the old incident was mentioned again. Qin Feiyong continued, I'll make things clear first. If Xuan escapes because of someone's interference, I'll definitely ask my sister to inform the provincial government immediately. At that time, you'll have to bear the consequences. I agree. Yan Nanshan was the first to nod. If Ma Cheng did not act recklessly in the Black Bear Mountain, Xuan would not have escaped. Today's incident would not have happened at all. In the end, it was all Ma Cheng's fault. King Yen said, I agree too. We must get rid of Xuan tonight. Otherwise, the situation will be worse in the future. We will be punished even more severely. Ma Cheng raised his eyebrows and nodded. I'll try my best to cooperate. Qin Feiyong said, All right, you guys step aside first. The three of them stepped aside. It's not easy to lure Xuan out. Yan Nanshan was a little worried. Qin Feiyong took out the image crystal and injected his genuine qi into it to activate it. Soon, Steward Li's shadow appeared. How's the plan going? Manager Li asked. Qin Feiyong said, Xuan's wings have all been clipped, leaving only a few small fries. Now, Hallmaster and I are outside the city, ready to deal the final blow to Xuan. Steward Li frowned. Then how do we lure Xuan out? Qin Feiyong smiled and said, That will depend on your ability. Me. Manager Li was stunned. I can't do it. You're the only one who can do it. Qin Feiyong said, All right, I'll do my best. Manager Li nodded helplessly. Qin Feiyong said, however, I can give you an idea. What idea? Manager Li asked. Tell him that. Qin Feiyong explained briefly. Manager Li turned off the image crystal. He frowned and mumbled, Will it work? But now, we can only try our best. I hope we can succeed. He took a few deep breaths and quickly ran to the underground secret room. Very soon, he came to the door of the secret room. He calmed himself down and shouted, Pavilion Master, I have an urgent matter to discuss with you. Come out quickly. Boom. The stone door opened. Xuan strode out and looked at Manager Li suspiciously. He frowned and asked, What's the hurry? Manager Li said, King Yen, Ma Cheng, and Yan Nanshan said they have something to discuss with you. They're looking for me? Xuan frowned and asked, Where are they? Outside the city. Manager Li said. Why are they outside the city? Xuan began to feel suspicious. It seemed that he had to ask Jia He and the others first. Manager Li said, They found a very strange place outside the city and want you to take a look. They also told me not to reveal it to anyone else. A strange place? Xuan was stunned. Manager Li said, according to King Yan's guess, it might be an ancient site. An ancient site. Xuan's body trembled. Usually, a place called an ancient site would hide a peerless treasure. Manager Li urged, Pavilion Master, they're already waiting there. You're the only one left. I'll take you there now. He also knew that Xuan, who had always been cautious, would definitely ask Jia He and the others first. So, He couldn't give Xuan this chance. Otherwise, the matter would be exposed. Xuan said, "Go out and wait for me." Manager Li frowned and said, "Pavilion Master, you've always been straightforward. Why are you dragging your feet today?" Xuan said angrily, "Just wait. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Manager Li's heart sank. Was he really going to be exposed? Xuan was about to close the stone door. Manager Li suddenly thought of a plan. He grabbed the stone door and said anxiously, "Pavilion Master, I'm not talking nonsense. It's because there's a wolf claw print in that place." Wolf claw? Xuan was slightly stunned and asked in surprise, "What do you mean?" Yan Nanshan said that the wolf claw print was left by Qin Feiyang's wolf. In other words, Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King have been there before. It's very likely that they got the formula for the potential elixir there. Pavilion Master, you should know the value of the potential elixir. Manager Li said excitedly, pretending to be serious. Xuan was also excited when he heard this. But then, he calmed down again and asked doubtfully, "It's just a wolf claw print. How can you tell that it was left by the wolf?" Manager Li was burning with anxiety. Xuan's vigilance was far beyond his expectations. He was at his wits' end. If he failed here, not only would the elimination plan be in vain, Xuan would definitely kill him. In short, he must not let Xuan contact Jia He and the others. At the same time, Qin Feiyang stood by the river, frowning. Why aren't they here yet? The treasure pavilion was located in the West District, not far from here. With Xuan and Manager Li's speed, they could arrive in a few breaths. Could something have happened? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled, and he took out the image crystal again. No. Xuan and Manager Li must be together now. If I send a message to Manager Li, my identity will be exposed. He quickly turned his head and looked at Theta Wang and the others. I'm worried that Manager Li is in trouble. Quickly send a message to him. Yan Nanshan immediately took out the image crystal from his Chenkuan bag. In front of the stone door of the secret chamber, Xuan looked at Manager Li suspiciously. Manager Li's forehead was already faintly sweating. But at this moment, the image crystal in his arms trembled. Could it be Qin Feiyang? Please don't let it be this kid. Manager Li's heart trembled. He braced himself and took out the crystal. He poured his battle chi into it, and 3 shadows quickly condensed. It was not Qin Feiyang. It was Yan Nanshan and the other 2. Manager Li secretly heaved a sigh of relief. King Yan said angrily, "Zhang Zhengyi, what are you doing? Why are you still in the treasure pavilion?" Yan Nanshan added, "Why do I feel that you've become a different person since you came back from Pan County?" Xuan's heart skipped a beat. He smiled apologetically and said, "Sorry, I was delayed by something. I'll go right away." Ma Chang said impatiently, "Hurry up. Yan Nanshan, King Yan and I all guessed that it must be an ancient site." Xuan nodded and said, "Okay, I'll come to you now. If you're not here in 5 breaths, we'll go to the treasure pavilion to look for you." Yan Nanshan said unhappily as he turned off the image crystal. It doesn't seem like he's lying. Xuan thought for a while and smiled at Manager Li. "Let's go. If we keep them waiting, I'm afraid they'll really get angry." "You came just in time," Manager Li muttered. If Yan Nanshan and the other 2 did not suddenly send a message, he really did not know what to do. Whoosh! The 2 turned into a stream of light and rushed out side by side. By the river. Qin Feiyang gave Yan Nanshan and the other 2 a thumbs up. They were all geniuses in acting. He seemed to have thought of something and said, "Temple Master Seniors, I have a question. Zhang Zhengyi is dead, so the image crystal is useless. And all of you have built a contract bridge with Zhang Zhengyi. This is a very obvious flaw. But why didn't you realize that this Zhang Zhengyi was Xuan?" He looked at the 3 of them suspiciously. "Of course we knew. We asked him at that time. He said that he accidentally destroyed the image crystal on the way. Jia He and the others were also lying at the side. Of course we wouldn't suspect them." The 3 of them said. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. It was too late to say, but in the blink of an eye. In less than 5 breaths, 2 powerful auras came from the direction of Yen City. "I'll hide first. You guys act according to the situation," Qin Feiyang said and entered the ancient castle. After listening for so long, Luo Chenxue basically figured out what was going on. There was an indelible sadness on her face. The murderous intent in Qin Feiyong's heart became more and more intense. Outside, the King of Yen rushed into the sky. His battle chi surged and lit up the world. Xuan and Steward Li saw him immediately. The two of them landed in front of the King of Yen like lightning. Steward Li immediately asked, "King of Yen, where is the ancient site? Let's go down and talk." The King of Yen led the two of them and landed in front of Yan Nanshan and Ma Cheng. Xuan looked around and asked in confusion, "Why are there only the three of you? Where are Jia He and the others?" Ma Cheng said, "We haven't informed them yet. After we confirm it, we will ask them to come and help. Steward Li, you should go back first." Steward Li couldn't help at all if he stayed here. Steward Li hesitated and said, "Well, I want to take a look too." Xuan smiled and said, "Go back first. We will inform you if there is any news." "All right." Steward Li nodded. With a trace of reluctance, he turned and flew away. "Where is the ancient site?" Xuan glanced at Yan Nanshan and the other two and asked. Yan Nanshan looked around and walked to Xuan. He said in a low voice, "The ancient site is," while Yan Nanshan was talking, Ma Cheng and the King of Yen also took a step forward and surrounded Xuan in the middle. The distance between the four of them was less than half a meter. The time was ripe. Yan Nanshan's words stopped abruptly. The three giants attacked at the same time and slapped Xuan with all their might. Murderous intent, battle chi and the terrifying aura of the War Emperor exploded at this moment. They were too fast. They were too close to each other. Even the cunning Xuan couldn't avoid their sneak attack. Boom. At this moment, Chapter 260. They had succeeded in one strike. Yan Nanshan and the other two wanted to take this opportunity to kill Xuan. But Xuan was not easy to deal with. When he came back to his senses, the aura of an 8-star combat emperor exploded. His eyes shone with a ferocious light. He stretched out both of his hands and his battle chi swept across the sky, pushing Yan Nanshan and King Yen away. At the same time, Ma Cheng punched him in the back. Crack! A few bones were broken. Like a meteor, he flew into the depths of the forest. Wherever it passed, the towering ancient trees were smashed to the ground like decaying dead wood. Finally, he crashed into a giant mountain with a loud bang. The giant mountain, which was a few hundred feet tall, collapsed on the spot with a deafening rumble. Yan Nanshan shouted, "This is a good opportunity. Don't give him any time to catch his breath." The three magnates' auras were like rainbows as they rushed towards the collapsed mountain peak. At the same time, Qin Feiyong and the lion-headed eagle appeared out of thin air. "Eagle, follow them," Qin Feiyong urged. Swoosh! The lion-headed eagle carried him and chased after them at lightning speed. Rumble! Accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, Xuan flew out from the collapsed mountain peak with a terrifying aura and stood high in the sky. He was covered in blood. That fatal sneak attack from before had caused him to be seriously injured. Swoosh! Yan Nanshan and the other two flew over and surrounded Xuan in the middle. "Why did you plot against us? If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation today, don't blame us for reporting you to the state government." Xuan glanced at the three of them coldly. "You're still pretending?" The three of them looked at each other with sarcasm in their eyes. "Cut the crap. Kill him while he's weak. Kill him," Yan Nanshan shouted. After he finished speaking, his battle chi rushed out from his body like a torrent. King Yen and Ma Cheng also attacked with all their might. Their battle chi rolled in all directions and even the heavens and the earth were trembling. The three magnates joined forces and their aura was terrifying. "Don't go too far." Xuan was furious. Although he was seriously injured, he was not afraid at all and fought with the three of them. Rumble! Crack! Mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. It was as if doomsday had arrived. The ferocious beasts and birds in the forest fled for their lives. Qin Feiyong did not approach. He stood on top of a distant mountain and looked into the distance. Xuan has been severely injured by the sneak attack and can't exert his full strength. "I'm sure we can annihilate him this time." Manager Li flew to Qin Feiyong's side, a cold light flashing in his old eyes. He didn't really leave either. Qin Feiyong said, "No matter whether he is seriously injured or not, He must die here today. But we can't let go of the small fries in the city. Manager Li nodded and said, "This old man understands. This old man will go back now to gather the troops and eliminate those remnants." Qin Feiyang said, "Inform Elder Wan and the others while you're at it." "All right." Manager Li responded, then turned around and tore through the sky. Qin Feiyang said, "Old Eagle, it's time for your little brothers to move out. Have them seal off Swallow City from all sides. From now on, only people can enter and not leave." Chirp. The lion-headed eagle raised its head and let out a sharp cry. Roar! The 15 ferocious beasts that were hiding in the depths of the mountain brought with them a terrifying aura and descended upon Swallow City at lightning speed. Why are there so many ferocious beasts? Their aura is so strong. They can all fly. They are combat emperor ferocious beasts. The moment the 15 ferocious beasts descended, the entire Swallow City fell into a state of panic. Everyone was in danger. "What are you doing in Swallow City? Who sent you here?" Elder He and Elder Wan from the South District, Elder Ji from the East District, and Manager Li who had just returned to the West District couldn't help but change their expressions. They all flew up into the sky and looked at the ferocious beasts outside the city. Master Beast Emperor has ordered that from now on, all humans in Swallow City can only enter and not leave until Qin Feiyang returns. Hearing this, Elder Wan and the others heaved a sigh of relief. So it was Qin Feiyang who had arranged this. It was only until now that they realized what had happened. It turned out that Qin Feiyang had already made arrangements for this. A total of 15 combat emperor ferocious beasts. This guy was really generous. At the same time, Lin family. Roar. Wolf King's angry roar resounded in all directions. A massacre began in an instant. Haha, Lin Han, today is the end of your Lin family. Fatso laughed wildly as he followed behind Wolf King and attacked the younger generation of the Lin family. Ran Wushuang also attacked. More than 10 combat kings of the Lin family were killed by her finger. Tonight, Swallow City was destined to not be peaceful. Blood was everywhere. Martial Imperial Palace. Shi Zhang, Elder Chu, and a group of deacon elders rushed out of the door aggressively. The disciples of the Blood Slaughter Palace who were monitoring the Martial Imperial Palace were all killed on the spot. A large number of combat kings also appeared in the Danwang Hall and the royal family. After the combat kings of the Zhanbao Pavilion found out the truth, they also started a carpet cleansing of Swallow City under the lead of Manager Li. The combat kings of the 4 superpowers all came out with Heaven's Eye stones. Anyone who changed their appearance was killed without mercy. Of course, not everyone who changed their appearance was a disciple of the Blood Slaughter Palace. Some of them were just hiding from their enemies. But when they found out about the situation, they couldn't care less and changed their appearance. Their lives were more important. In the city at night, a massacre was happening everywhere. The air of the 4 districts was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The massacre outside the city was even more brutal. Yan Nanshan, Xueqi, and the other 2 killed their way into the depths of the mountain range. Everything within a few thousand meters was destroyed. Although Xueqi was strong, he was seriously injured and was gradually falling into a hopeless situation. Although Yan Nanshan and the others were also injured to varying degrees, their aura was even more terrifying. Qin Feiyang hid in the dark and didn't let the lion-head eagle attack. He wanted to find the perfect opportunity to deal a fatal blow to Xueqi. Another 10 breaths passed. Hiss! A giant python suddenly jumped out from behind Xueqi. Its long and narrow eyes shone with a sinister light. This was his combat soul. This also meant that Yan Nanshan and the other 2 had indeed forced him into a desperate situation. Xueqi, don't think about escaping today. Yan Nanshan shouted. Behind him, a gigantic eagle soared into the sky. Its body was fiery red as if it was condensed from flames. Its curved claws and sharp eyes were daunting. This was the Fire Eagle. It was Yan Nanshan's combat soul. Ma Cheng and the King of Yen summoned their combat souls at the same time. Ma Cheng's combat soul was also a giant python like Xueqi. However, Ma Cheng's combat soul was scarlet and dozens of meters long. It was ferocious as if it was cast from magma. The King of Yan's combat soul was even more shocking. It was a Wyrm. Kill! The 3 of them waved their hands with a murderous aura. The 3 combat souls roared in the sky, crushing mountains one after another as they clashed with Xuan's combat soul. In less than 5 breaths, Xuan's combat soul wailed and was torn into pieces. Immediately, Xuan spat out a mouthful of blood and roared, "Tell me, why did you do this?" Until now, he had not realized that his identity had been exposed. He couldn't be blamed. This was because he had done it flawlessly, without the slightest flaw. If it wasn't for Qin Feiyang, Yan Nanshan and the rest would not have realized that Zhang Zhengyi was a fake. Yan Nanshan and the other two did not make a sound. As they waved their hands, the 3 combat souls roared towards Xuan with a ferocious aura. "Damn it! I can't hide any longer." Xuan gritted his teeth and ran away with a mysterious footwork. His speed was twice as fast as before. An auxiliary combat art. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He finally understood why Xuan could escape from Yan Nanshan and the rest again and again. The reason was that he had an auxiliary combat art. Combat arts and martial techniques were not required. Combat arts could only be practiced by martial artists who had mastered battle chi. Auxiliary combat arts and martial techniques were similar in nature. However, auxiliary combat arts were many times rarer than martial techniques. It was extremely rare even in the imperial capital. Qin Feiyang did not expect Xuan to have mastered an auxiliary combat art. Although it was just an inferior combat art, it was already very shocking. "Go after him." Yan Nanshan and the other two were anxious. Although they were prepared, their efforts were futile in the face of Xuan's overwhelming speed. "Hee, you are not surprised at all. It seems that the 3 of you already know my true identity." Xuan grinned hideously. King Yen shouted, "Xuan, you are at the end of the road. I advise you to surrender now." "End of the road? Hee. Can you catch up with me? Since I have been exposed, I will not hold back. I will slaughter Yen City now and refine them into blood-killing pills." Xuan laughed sinisterly. His face was filled with madness as he ran toward Yen City like a bolt of lightning. Qin Feiyang's expression changed drastically. He shouted, "This is a good opportunity. Take a shortcut and stop him." The lion-headed eagle carried Qin Feiyang and ran through the forest at high speed. Qin Feiyang stared at Xuan. At the same time, Theta Wang and the others chased after Xuan anxiously. If Xuan really massacred Yen City, the 3 rulers of Yen City would be implicated. Xuan arrived at the back of the North City after a while. "Yan Nanshan, I will destroy your martial imperial hall first." He laughed maniacally and rushed toward the city. "What should we do?" Yan Nanshan was on the verge of exploding. But at this moment, the lion-headed eagle shot out from the forest below like a bolt of black lightning. The sharp beak easily pierced through Xuan's skin and pierced through his chest, leaving a palm-sized bloody hole in his body. Blood dyed the sky red. What happened? Xuan was shocked. He looked down at his chest and his eyes widened in disbelief. The next moment, he screamed in pain and lost his balance. He fell into the forest below. He looked at the lion-headed eagle again. In its claws, there was a heart that was still beating. It was Xuan's heart. This was a fatal blow. Without his heart, Xuan would definitely die. Bang! Xuan fell into the forest and hit the ground. A deep pit was formed on the ground. Xuan was buried deep in the soil. Blood bubbles kept coming out of his mouth. His face was full of confusion. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, Xuan heard the sound of footsteps. He felt that someone was approaching him step by step. The aura was not strong, but it was familiar. Who was it? A wave of battle aura surged into the sky like a tide and condensed into a full moon. The entire Yen City was as bright as day. It's Qin Feiyang. He's not dead. The people in the city had already been awakened by such a big incident and gathered on the streets. The moment the full moon appeared, some people noticed Qin Feiyang. They immediately exclaimed in surprise. The entire county of Yen knew that Qin Feiyang had died in the Swallow Pan mountain range. But now, he appeared in front of them again. How could they not be surprised? Didn't he embezzle the herbs and was executed by Zhang Zhengyi on the spot? Why is he still with the Prince of Yen and the others? Who's the person he's carrying? The discussion and clamor intertwined into a terrifying sound wave that covered the sky and earth. Whoosh! A figure rushed into the sky. It was the beautiful woman. She was carrying a person in her hand. Lin Chen. Master. Lin Chen's expression changed when he saw Xuan's miserable state. His face turned even paler when he saw Qin Feiyang carrying Xuan. My lords, Xuan forced me to do this. Please show mercy and spare my life. Lin Chen immediately begged. You deserve to die. A murderous intent flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. A layer of ice appeared on his index finger and he pointed it at Lin Chen's forehead. Don't kill me, arg, along with a shrill scream. A bloody hole appeared in between Lin Chen's eyebrows. The beautiful woman waved her hand. Lin Chen fell downwards, smashing into the ground with a thud, dying on the spot. Lin Chen? Didn't they say that he's following that devil Xuan? He called that person his master just now. Could that person be Xuan? The people were shocked. Everyone, be quiet. I have something to announce. Yan Nanshan shouted. His voice spread in all directions. The crowd immediately shut their mouths. The entire East City fell into a dead silence. All of this is Xuan's trick. Qin Feiyang was wrongly accused. Yan Nanshan slowly explained the whole matter from beginning to end. So that's how it is. I knew it. Qin Feiyang is such a kind young man. How could he do such a thing? How dare he frame Qin Feiyang? That devil Xuan deserves to die. Kill him. The people were filled with righteous indignation. Their voices shook the sky. Whoosh. At this moment, Ran Wuxuang flew over with Wolf King, Fatso, Lu Hong, and Xueqi. How is it? Qin Feiyang asked. From now on, the Lin family will cease to exist. Fatso smiled coldly. What? You destroyed the Lin family? Yan Nanshan and the other two's expressions changed. They looked at them in shock. What's the use of keeping such a family alive? Wolf King's eyes were full of disdain. The King of Yen clenched his fists tightly. His knuckles cracked as he said sternly, You're insane. Humph. Fatso snorted. He looked down at the crowd and said loudly, The Lin family colluded with Xuan. Their crime is unforgivable. We've just eliminated the Lin family. From now on, the Lin family will cease to exist in Yen City. Good job. Anyone who colludes with the devil Xuan should be killed. The people cheered loudly. Lu Hong pursed her lips and smiled. King of Yen, if you hold us accountable now, I'm afraid everyone will think that you're in cahoots with Xuan. The King of Yen was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. This group of people is despicable. Fatso did not care at all. He kicked Xuan and sneered. Old man, weren't you very arrogant at the Eagle Claw Peak? Come on. Get up and fight with the Fat Lord if you have the guts. Qin Feiyang and the others rolled their eyes. Why didn't Fatso act so arrogantly before Xuan was injured? Swoosh. The group landed on the square outside the palace. Qin Feiyang found Xuan's Chenkuan bag and threw it on the ground. Ma Qing shouted, Qin Feiyang, what are you doing? Qin Feiyang looked at him in confusion. Ma Qing said, The formula for the blood spirit pill must be in Xuan's Chenkuan bag. I have reason to suspect that you want to take the formula for yourself since you took his Chenkuan bag. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Lu Hong said in a low voice, Temple Master Ma, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. If that's the case, then hand over your Chenkuan bag. Ma Cheng sneered. Qin Feiyang looked at Ma Cheng and suddenly realized something. He said lightly, I think you want the formula for the blood spirit pill. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't slander me. Ma Cheng was furious. His face was gloomy to the extreme. You know very well whether I'm talking nonsense or not. Qin Feiyang sneered. He had to get rid of this person sooner or later. This was because if it wasn't for Ma Cheng, Feng Cheng and He Xiong would not have died. He had not forgotten this debt and had always kept it in his heart. Ma Cheng and King Yan's faces were very ugly. Yan Nanshan raised his eyebrows when he saw the atmosphere was getting more and more serious. All right, just destroy the Chenkuan bag. What's there to quarrel about? That's good too, in case someone with bad intentions tries to frame us. Qin Feiyang threw the Chenkuan bag to Yan Nanshan directly. Yan Nanshan grabbed it and squeezed hard. The Chenkuan bag was crushed into pieces. Once the Chenkuan bag was crushed, the things inside would also be destroyed. Qin Feiyang looked at Ma Cheng and said lightly, Now, You won't say that I want to take the formula for myself, right? Don't do it unless you don't want others to know. Ma Cheng sneered. Haha, Xuan, who was lying on the ground, suddenly laughed. Interesting, really interesting. I'll tell you the truth. The formula for the Blood Evil Temple is not in the Chen bag at all. If any of you want it, put your head over here and I'll tell him. Xuan looked at them mockingly. Qin Feiyong's eyes narrowed. Chapter 262. There was a dead silence. Even the King of Yen was tongue-tied. After being together for so long, this was the first time he saw Yan Nanshan so angry. However, Ma Cheng was really stupid. Even if Qin Feiyong wanted the formula of the blood spirit pill, he would not do it in public. Wasn't he asking to be humiliated? Swoosh. Ma Cheng came back to his senses and stared at Yan Nanshan. What's wrong? Are you still not convinced? As the hallmaster of the Danwang Hall, aren't you ashamed of slandering a 16-year-old young man in public? Yan Nanshan sneered. Ma Cheng's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Yan Nanshan, just you wait. I won't let this go. Yan Nanshan sneered. I'll accompany you to the end. All right. Ma Cheng threw Xuan aside and flew into the air. He would only continue to embarrass himself if he stayed here. Xuan laughed. Ma Cheng, the formula is with Jia He. Go and get it. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and grabbed Xuan's clothes. He said angrily, where is the formula? Hee, didn't I tell you? It's with Jia He. If you rush there now, you should still be able to make it. Otherwise, Ma Cheng will take it away. Xuan sneered. Qin Feiyong's eyes were gloomy. He really did not know whether he should believe Xuan's words. Suddenly, he laughed. Xuan, you're really something. You're still trying to drive a wedge between me and Ma Cheng when you're about to dive. Unfortunately, not everyone is as stupid as Ma Cheng. Qin Feiyong sneered. Xuan's pupils shrank. He said mockingly, is that so? Are you really that smart? Qin Feiyong said, I'm not smart enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been tricked by you last time. But at least you're in my hands now. Xuan sneered. Then we'll wait and see. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Qin Feiyong took out the Chong Shui and chopped off Xuan's head. Blood spurted out from the bowl-sized wound. Qin Feiyong exhaled deeply, before he turned toward Yan Nanshan and the beautiful woman and said, Hall leader, elder, I'm a little tired. I'll be heading back first. Yan Nanshan smiled. Go and have a good rest. We will clean up the remnants of the blood slaughter palace. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at Ran Wushuang. Sister, take us back. Ran Wushuang waved her jade-like hand and led Qin Feiyong and the others away in a streak of light. Upon entering the northern district, Qin Feiyong said to Old Eagle, Do me a favor and go take a look at the Danwang Hall. Lion-headed Eagle asked in confusion. Didn't you say that Xuan is trying to sow discord? Better to be safe than sorry. Qin Feiyong was somewhat worried. All right. Wait for my news. Lion-headed Eagle flapped its wings and disappeared into the night sky. It could freely change its size and sneak into the Danwang Hall without anyone noticing. It was as easy as drinking water. Lu Hong retracted her gaze and said in a low voice, I can see that Ma Cheng and King Yan are getting more and more determined to kill you. You have to be careful. I've already sensed it. Qin Feiyong nodded. Lu Hong asked, Have you thought of a countermeasure? Let's wait for Old Eagle to come back. Qin Feiyong said, his eyes flickering. Soothing Lake. They landed beside the lake. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and said to Wolf King and Ran Wushuang, I want to talk to Aunt Shui alone. After they entered the attic, Qin Feiyong summoned Luo Chenxue out of thin air. Qin Feiyong turned to face her and said, Aunt Shui, I'm sorry. This is all I can do. It's enough. Luo Chenxue squeezed out a smile. Before Senior Zhang died, he left me a bloody robe and asked me to take good care of you and Qingzhu. But, Qin Feiyong took out the bloody robe and looked at the shocking words on it. He felt terrible. This is fate. Back then, Zhang Zhengyi and I fell in love at first sight. In less than half a year, we promised to marry each other and got pregnant with Qingzhu. But because I was just a woman from an ordinary family, I was firmly opposed by his family. I thought that he would face it with me. But in the end, He chose to escape and left alone. I was so disappointed in him that I left the Jiang family and lived in Iron Ox Town. Not long after, Qingzhu was born. He received the news and came to me to ask for my forgiveness. And because of this, he fell out with the Jiang family. I couldn't forgive him, but I couldn't deprive him of his right to be a father. Qingzhu would only suffer if she followed me, so I let him raise Qingzhu. Actually, after more than 10 years, I don't hate him anymore. But unfortunately, I don't have the chance to tell him now. Luo Chenxue said faintly. So this is the conflict of the Jiang family. Qin Feiyong sighed deeply. Was family background really so important? As long as two people loved each other and could be happy, wasn't it better than anything else? Aunt Xue. Senior Jiang really cared about you. Last time in the treasure pavilion, he even asked me to help him get your forgiveness. If he could hear your words, I believe that he would be able to rest in peace in the underworld. Qin Feiyong said. Luo Chenxue shed tears unknowingly. Whoosh. At this moment, the lion-head eagle looked at Luo Chenxue and said telepathically, Boy, Xuan didn't lie. Jia He really did have the formula for the blood demon pill. Qin Feiyong was shocked and thought. Did he take the initiative to hand it over? No. After he and that he guy saw the pill recipe, they destroyed it. They thought that they did it secretly, but they didn't expect that I saw the whole process. The lion-head eagle sneered. Destroyed it? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. This was going to be difficult. Although the eagle saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't convict Ma Cheng and Elder He without evidence. They would definitely deny it. Qin Feiyong thought. Why don't you record it with the image crystal? I can't speak. Why would I need the image crystal? The lion-head eagle rolled its eyes. Qin Feiyong said, after they get the formula, they will definitely start to make the blood demon pill. Can you help to keep an eye on them? Boy, you are smart, but sometimes you are stupid. Xuan's matter is not over yet. How can they commit a crime at this time? The lion-head eagle looked at him disdainfully and flew back to the pavilion. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Luo Chenxue wiped her tears and asked Qin Feiyong, Feiyong, what are you going to do next? I am going to the state capital. Qin Feiyong didn't hide his thoughts. He had broken through to the 7-star martial ancestor realm. With his current speed, it wouldn't take long for him to step into the combat emperor realm. He would be able to protect himself in the state capital. Luo Chenxue nodded and said, You are very talented. The stage in the county of Yan is too small for you. Qin Feiyong smiled. His stage was not in the county of Yan or the state capital. It was in the imperial capital. However, before he left the county of Yan, he had to deal with Ma Cheng, Prince Yan, and Elder He first. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Aunt Xue, go and rest for a while. Okay. You have to be careful too. Luo Chenxue reminded. I know. Qin Feiyong nodded and said to the attic, Lu Hong, arrange a room for Aunt Xue. Okay. Lu Hong walked out of the attic and said with a smile, Aunt Xue, come with me. After the two entered the attic, Qin Feiyong lowered his head and pondered. Outside, the killing continued until dawn. Manager Li came to the soothing lake after he finished his work. He saw Qin Feiyong standing by the lake and thinking about something. Manager Li walked up and said with a smile, Mr. Qin, what are you thinking about? You look so deep in thought. Qin Feiyong looked up and said with a smile, You look so energetic. Looks like the operation went smoothly. Nonsense. The 4 superforces came out in full force. How could it not go smoothly? However, I didn't expect the Blood Slaughter Palace to develop so fast. We killed more than 3,000 people. Manager Li shook his head and sighed. So many? Qin Feiyong was also surprised. They had developed so much in less than 2 years. If Xuan had a few more years, the Blood Slaughter Palace would have infiltrated every corner of the county of Yan. Manager Li asked, Where is Madam? Qin Feiyong said, She is resting in the attic. Manager Li said with a smile, I am here to take her to the treasure pavilion. You don't have a problem with that, do you? Not now. It's not over yet. Qin Feiyong shook his head. What do you mean? Manager Li was surprised. Qin Feiyong said, Ma Cheng and Elder He got the recipe of the Blood Slaughter Palace. I have been thinking about how to make them show up. Are they looking for death? Manager Li was furious. Destroying the recipe was forbidden by the first-generation emperor. As the Lord of the Danwang Hall and the Elder of Law Enforcement, they were breaking the law. They had just gotten rid of Xueqi, and now Ma Cheng appeared. Why didn't they stop? Creak. At this moment, Ran Wushuang pushed the door open and walked out. After a night of rest, she was glowing. She was even more charming than before. Qin Feiyong looked over and his eyes flashed slightly. He said, "Sister, contact Wang Hong immediately." Ran Wushuang was stunned. She shook her head and said with a smile, "I lied to them. Although I know Wang Hong, we have not established a contract." Qin Feiyong was stunned. Ran Wushuang smiled and said, "But it is not difficult to inform Wang Hong. Have you thought it through?" "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. No matter what, Ma Cheng and the others could not be allowed to stay in the county of Yan. Ran Wushuang took out the image crystal. Manager Li looked at the two of them suspiciously. He suddenly thought of something and hurriedly held out his hand. "Miss Wushuang, wait." He looked at Qin Feiyong and frowned. "Are you going to tell the higher-ups about this?" Qin Feiyong did not deny it. Manager Li said anxiously, "But have you ever thought that you will implicate Yan Nanshan?" Qin Feiyong said, "If I was not afraid of implicating the Hall Master, I would have told him. But now I have no choice. I also believe that the Hall Master will agree with me." Chapter 263. Qin Feiyong nodded at Ran Wushuang. Ran Wushuang channeled his battle aura into the image crystal. In less than a moment, a young figure quickly appeared. It was a young man in purple. He was about 24 or 25 years old. His eyebrows were sharp, and he had an imposing appearance. One look and one could tell that his cultivation was high. "Wushuang, it's really you." Seeing Ran Wushuang, the young man was pleasantly surprised. Ran Wushuang smiled. "Lu Xingchen, long time no see. Wushuang, where have you been for the past 20 years? We've searched everywhere in the state capital, but there was no news of you. You didn't reply to our messages. We all thought you were dead." Lu Xingchen was puzzled. It was obvious that this person was close to Ran Wushuang. Ran Wushuang said, "It's a long story. I'll tell you when I get back to the state capital. Right now, I want to ask you for a favor." Lu Xingchen looked at him unhappily. "Why are you being so polite with me? Just say it." Ran Wushuang said, "Help me inform Commander Wang Hong and ask him to come to the county of Yan." "You're in the county of Yan now?" Lu Xingchen was surprised. Ran Wushuang nodded. Lu Xingchen said, "It's easy to inform him, but we need a reason." Ran Wushuang said in a low voice, "Tell him that someone in the county of Yan is refining blood-killing pills." "What? Who's so bold?" Lu Xingchen was furious. Ran Wushuang said, "It's too complicated to explain. Go and tell Wang Hong that I'll be waiting for him at the Soothing Lake in the Martial Imperial Hall." "Okay." Lu Xingchen nodded, and the image quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyong walked to Ran Wushuang's side and said with a smile, "Sis, this Lu Xingchen seems to be interested in you." Ran Wushuang rolled his eyes at him and warned, "This person is not a kind person. When you go to the state capital in the future, you'd better stay away from him." "Really? I couldn't tell." Qin Feiyong was shocked. Ran Wushuang sighed and said, "Some people are too good at disguising themselves. You can't see their character from their appearance. In short, no matter where you go or who you face in the future, you have to be careful." Qin Feiyong was stunned. These words made him think of Uncle Yuan. During his 5 years in Iron Ox Town, Uncle Yuan had told him more than once, "I wonder where the old man is now. Is your body okay?" Whoosh! Suddenly, a white figure silently descended above the Soothing Lake. He was a middle-aged man with a square face. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a black eye patch over his left eye. It was Wang Hong. He was like air. Qin Feiyong and the others didn't notice his arrival. Wang Hong glanced below. His figure flickered and landed beside the lake. "Who is it?" Qin Feiyong and the others were shocked. When they saw Wang Hong, they immediately cupped their hands and said, "Greetings, Master Wang Hong." Wang Hong glanced at Qin Feiyong and Manager Li. His gaze landed on Ran Wushuang. His cold face had a hint of joy. He took out the Heaven's Eye stone and expressionlessly said to Ran Wushuang, "Come here." Ran Wushuang knew that Wang Hong wanted to confirm her identity. He walked up and placed his hand on the Heaven's Eye stone. A moment passed. The Heaven's Eye stone didn't show any reaction. Wang Hong put away the Heaven's Eye stone and sized up Ran Wushuang. He said with dissatisfaction, "After 20 years, you are only a one-star combat emperor. You have disappointed me. I believe that if your grandfather knew, he would be extremely disappointed too." "I'm sorry." Ran Wushuang bowed and said. There was a trace of self-blame in his eyes. "Grandfather?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Wang Hong sighed and said, "We'll talk about your matter when we get back. Tell me, what's the matter with the blood demon pill?" Ren Wushuang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You tell Senior Wang Hong." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Wang Hong also looked at Qin Feiyang. How did he become a 7-star martial ancestor so quickly? He saw through Qin Feiyang's cultivation with a glance. He was surprised. "Senior Wang Hong, it's like this. Back then, there was a person called Xueqi." Qin Feiyang told him everything he knew in detail, including the matter of Ma Chang and Elder, he embezzling the pill formula. After listening, Wang Hong's indifferent face became even colder. Such a big matter and they didn't report it. It seems that they've grown wings. Qin Feiyang said, "Senior, I have a request." "Say it." Wang Hong said. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Although Yan Nanshan is also wrong, he is an upright and selfless person. I hope you can forgive him." Wang Hong snorted and said, "You're also guilty. Why are you still in the mood to care about him?" "What am I guilty of?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "The last time I came to Yen City, you should have told me the truth. That way, Jiang Zhengyi wouldn't have died. But you didn't report it. If it weren't for Ma Chang and Elder he embezzling the pill formula of the blood demon pill, I'm afraid that you would continue to help them hide it. Qin Feiyang, you're a smart young man. How could you do such a foolish thing?" Wang Hong's face was full of anger. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's heart was filled with bitterness. Wang Hong said, "I know that you care about Yan Nanshan and don't want him to be punished. But you should think about the big picture." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said sincerely, "Senior, you're right. I'll keep it in mind." Wang Hong looked at him deeply and sighed. "Fine. Since you're the one who came up with the plan to wipe out the Blood Slaughter Palace, I won't hold you responsible." "Thank you, Senior." Then Yan Nanshan. Qin Feiyang looked at him pleadingly. "I'll seriously consider how to punish Yan Nanshan. Now let's talk about Ma Chang and Elder He. Are you sure they embezzled the pill formula of the blood demon pill?" Wang Hong asked seriously. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "I'm sure. Old Eagle saw it with his own eyes. But I have no evidence." Wang Hong frowned. Ren Wushuang looked at Wang Hong and said, "I can testify." Wang Hong pondered for a moment and said, "Since you can testify, then it must be true. Inform Yan Nanshan, Prince Yan, Ma Chang, and Elder He to see me immediately." Steward Li hurriedly took out an image crystal to inform the 4 of them. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Hong, then looked at Ran Wushuang. His heart was filled with disbelief. Before Ran Wushuang spoke, Wang Hong was still hesitating. But when she testified, Wang Hong believed her without a doubt. What was the background of this cheap sister? And from Wang Hong's tone, Ren Wushuang's grandfather seemed to have a powerful background. Why is Wang Hong here? And at such a critical moment? Yan Nanshan and the other 3 rushed to the soothing lake when they received the news. Whoosh! In less than 10 breaths, the 4 of them landed by the lake and walked to Wang Hong. They bowed and said, "Greetings, my lord." Wang Hong glanced at the 4 of them and said nothing. He raised his arm and a ray of battle chi pierced through the air and entered Elder He's glabella. Ah! Elder He fell to the ground and died. His scream echoed in the air above the soothing lake and did not dissipate for a long time. What happened? Yan Nanshan, Prince Yan, and Ma Cheng turned pale when they saw this. Wang Hong looked at the 3 of them expressionlessly and asked, "Do you know why I killed Elder He?" "Please tell us, my lord." The 3 of them bowed and said. Wang Hong said, "Because he took the formula of the blood-killing pill." The 3 of them trembled, but their expressions were slightly different. Yan Nanshan and Prince Yan were shocked. Obviously, they only knew about it now. On the other hand, panic flashed in Ma Cheng's eyes. Although he hid it well, Wang Hong and Qin Feiyang still caught it. Wang Hong shouted, "Ma Cheng, do you know your crime?" Ma Cheng trembled and knelt on the ground hurriedly. "My lord, I know my crime. I did not supervise Elder He properly and allowed him to commit such a serious crime. Please punish me, my lord. Until now you're still playing dumb. Tell me, why did you take the formula of the blood-killing pill?" Wang Hong shouted. Ma Cheng shook his head and said, "I don't know either. Maybe Elder He was confused and did such a stupid thing." Wang Hong clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "Don't test my patience. I'm not asking him, I'm asking you. Why did you take the formula?" "Me? My lord, I didn't." "Did Qin Feiyang say something to you?" "My lord, I'm innocent. Qin Feiyang and I have a grudge. He wanted to use this opportunity to avenge a personal grudge. Please investigate." To tell you the truth, Qin Feiyang even found an excuse to destroy the Lin family last night. Although he is young, he is shrewd. Even we are inferior to him. Ma Cheng's eyes were full of resentment. Wang Hong raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He nodded and said, "Senior, I don't deny that I did have some selfish motives." Before he finished, Wang Hong waved his hand and said, "We'll talk about this later." Then he lowered his head and looked at Ma Cheng. "Originally, considering that you have been in charge of the Danwang Hall for so many years and have worked hard, I wanted to give you a chance to admit your mistakes and turn over a new leaf. But I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. I hate people like you the most, who are incorrigible." Wang Hong raised his arm and battle chi appeared at his fingertips. His eyes were full of killing intent. Ma Cheng's heart trembled. He hurriedly said, "My lord, please spare my life. I'm really innocent. Please don't listen to slander. Die." Wang Hong said coldly, interrupting Ma Cheng. Whoosh! Ma Cheng's heart sank. He suddenly jumped out and grabbed Qin Feiyang with one hand and Ren Wuxuang with the other. "Ma Cheng, what are you doing? Let's talk nicely. Don't mess around." Yan Nanshan's face suddenly changed and he hurriedly shouted. Wang Hong also lowered his arm. His eyes were gloomy. However, his other hand had retracted back into his sleeve without leaving a trace. "Haha. I have indeed seen the formula for the blood spirit pill. It's in my head now. Come and get it if you dare." Ma Cheng held Qin Feiyang and Ren Wuxuang hostage. He looked at Wang Hong and the others unscrupulously and laughed wildly. Wang Hong frowned and said, "So, you really want to refine the blood spirit pill?" "That's right. I sacrificed so much for the Danwang Hall. What did I get in return?" "Look at you, Lord Wang Hong. You didn't do anything and you can order us around. What right do you have? Isn't it because of your strength? As long as I have enough strength, even if I refine the blood spirit pill, who would dare to say a word?"